weeks and weeks of play have led to this moment.
Playoffs is back and we have some surprises in store for you.
Absolute chills.
Everybody so low for our peak check. Cookie!
There's a reason that Cookie was touted as the best soldier in EMEA.
Saints play this beautifully. The bomb sticks mid-air!
You gotta have supreme confidence in yourself.
There is so much to fight for, and I am stoked to see how it's going to really pan out.
I love this when the fight is dire, when players recognize when they must make a play.
Oh my lord!
I am so damn excited.
This is absolutely spicy.
Only one team gets to come away from this alive.
Now it's about their name. It's about their legacy. Know when to take that risk. When to bet it all.
The Overwatch Contenders Summer Series playoffs continue right now.
Welcome back, y'all. I'm sorry we're not as handsome, but we'll get the job done nevertheless. My name's Doran. I'm joined by Hirix to get you guys the rest of these matches. And Hirix, I'm afraid you didn't bring your wet weather gear, but I brought the raincoat because it is storming good games today.
Nice one. I like the way you pulled that together so that we don't have to make fun of you that you're wearing a jacket indoors at night for no reason.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, yeah, let's go ahead and hop into this because of course, we've got a lot of action. If there's any expectation that we should have based off of everything that's gone on throughout the week already, it's that we probably have like 5 map sets for the rest of the night. So strap in, get ready. We definitely have some good matches. The first one of which, Saints taking on WISP. This is one that we've been looking forward to for quite some time. It's a little bit of a test, I think, for both of these teams, one of which without a loss right now inside of the playoff bracket. That's the only team to do it so far. That is Saints here. And this is one of the teams that, while we talk about the parity, while we talk about how good all these teams can be against one another, this is one team that can separate themselves from the pack. And we'll see if they can actually pull that off. Mikey, Sam, King, Tree, Vega. That's the lineup right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is a roster stoked in pedigree. They've got plenty to go with them. And not only that, it's about flexibility as well. They bring so much to the table. It's a wide roster along with being a lethal one.
On the other side, of course, WISP's going to be their opponents. And one thing that, obviously is going to be talked about coming into this is the fact that you have these incredible players lining up for Saints. WISP is in a very similar situation where they have a star-studded lineup. But I will say one thing that pokes out almost immediately is the fact that you see Sunjun coming in, playing support. That is a notable player playing that role, and I think we have an indication as to why that may be the case, but nonetheless, you still have Chopper and Rocket, that dynamic duo coming in on DPS. Icy is going to be bringing in the tank role. This is a team that can play a lot of different types of tanks depending on who is coming in, but then, of course, Squid as well.
Yeah, I mean, Icy starting things out, though, is pretty interesting because, of course, I mean, Riker is right there, does have an Orisa in the back pocket, so map number 1 leaves a lot to be seen. Not only do we have Sonjun playing support, which I guess, given the current meta, maybe isn't the most surprising thing, but then to have Icy in on top of that, especially in a match against Saints, who are all on roll and all very deadly in their own roles, I think that's a tall ask.
Yeah, definitely. I think WISP obviously has had, this back and forth kind of talking about how we've seen a couple of different supports being played. Mateball has come in. We've seen Neb at certain points as well for WISP, but having Sunjun in here, again, I think this is just a nod to the fact that we're likely to play some version of that double flex support where we see, that shooters comp, as Zolik wants it to be called for some reason or another, but coming into a map that we're going into first, like Lijong Tower, which is going to be map number 1 for this series, well, I think that's the direction we're going in, and I think for a player like Sunjun that there shouldn't be too many concerns as to what kind of performance level we're going to get out of a player that's playing off-role when it comes to what we expect them to play.
No, and I want to look towards the other side as well because, you've got a team there that is poised to play some really, really strong double flex support should they need to. Vega backing up whoever's playing the main flex support has historically been incredibly good on the Zenyatta, backing up things like a Baptiste, and so I think that'll be a real weapon for Saints as well. And as much as we can go on and on about each of the players individually here, there's also one more thing that we should note, that the roster's been changed up a little bit here for Saints as well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely something a little bit different. I think the big problem with Saints, and I say it's a problem, but it's really the opposite of one, is when you talk about Saints, their biggest issue is that they have way too much. There's way too much going on here. I mean, you've got Mikey and you've got False, but then on top of that, you've got Vision and King together with Tree, and now Sam on top of it. It makes almost no sense. But the thing that definitely stands out to me as well is, of course, the fact that they're going to try to incorporate as many of those players as they can. And in so doing, you will see Tree coming in playing flex support as well. So it's Tree, a flex DPS player, and Sunjun, a flex DPS player, both picking up the Iliari.
Yeah, let us know who you think's going to take it away. Saints or WISP 1 and 2 respectively as we get ready to open things up here. One of the most important matches in pretty much the entirety of the bracket. This and the last one were two of the most anticipated rounds in this contender season to watch in bracket. So you gets knocked down to that ever so deadly NA lower bracket. After just a few short maps of Overwatch, Saints opening things up with a pretty aggressive position towards Mega here. Sam being assisted by the healing pylon of Tree. That's weird to say here, because I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, definitely strange, but nonetheless, we expect these aimers to definitely step up and make some plays on this character. That's just what it is so good at. The damage is so high, the pressure can be insurmountable. Let's see what they can do here, working that flank angle.
A real aggressive move there by Sam. Pushes out the likes of both Chopper and Sonjun, and that's going to be an easy point cap here for Saints. Just about pushing out 3 players here, but 5v3, this should be no problem.
Just like that.
Though, they get back up to 4. It might actually be 5 just as the tap comes over. So it got a pretty quick contest to stop any real major percentage from going over. Ultimates, though, remain out of reach for either team. Sonjun and Tree, Vega building up towards them, but they remain just out of reach. I see jockeying for position now, just waiting for Mikey to step up. Mikey refuses, uses the spin spear to get in, but not before Sam goes down. The space is great for Wisp. It's just about holding it and using it to pressure out Mikey now. They'll back away from the amplification matrix for the time being, fire back with the captive son of their own, and this should be enough to take over the fight.
See if they can do it. I mean, Saints, Tree did a great job of just avoiding the pressure from Sunjun. As soon as we saw that Captive Sun come out, was able to avoid that explosion, and there it goes. It's the return. It's Tree's turn.
Tree's got the off angle they never saw coming. And Saints, as much as they were getting pushed off the point and bullied around, they never rolled over. They never said die.
And now Saints in full control here, holding up close as well. It's a little bit Wisp has to contend with here, and I think one thing that they're going to have to do is try to get some control of those flank angles. It's going to be a lot harder now that they don't have, obviously, the Captive Sun. It's even more difficult as well when you consider that Wisp doesn't really have a lot of these flank angles available to them when you really kind of need that once Chopper gets the ult. And you can see Rocket working off that side alongside Chopper, and I think Sunjun's there as well. So they're really loading this flank angle here.
They're going for it really big, but remember, Saints have positioned themselves effectively off point for that reason, to block that side lane, but in doing so have given up the point itself without having actually allowed too many eliminations to go through. So now it's a little bit awkward as they're getting picked apart one by one, but you have to give some credit here to Wisp. Their understanding of when to step in on the point there and how hard Saints were investing in that side lane was really good.
Yeah, you can see Icy, getting taken down so low. Rocket is going to be able to return the kill, so Wisp should be okay despite losing their tank here, but it may just be a matter of time. Okay, there you go. That solidifies it. No Tree, no shot for Saints. Wisp are going to stay in control, it seems like, for now.
For now, big asterisk on that one. This fight has been awkward as they come. Neither team wants to truly give up on it, and Saints really shouldn't. Sam looks like a bandit after killing Rocket, and now regroups with the rest of the sports, picks back to the health bar. They know they're one up, and they're going to re-engage with that advantage.
That's going to be really quick on the uptake here. Wisp need to get full control of this space yet again here. They still have Rocket coming in from that respawn, going to be working off, try to get into position, and they're going to actually hold that off angle with their Torb. Sunjun taken down low. Captive Sun is ready on both sides.
Sonjun fires first. Amp Matrix tries to counter it, is unable to. Chopper triggers the first fire on Vega. King's turret next to fall. There's not much left in the tank here for Saints as they're getting burnt out in the middle of a choke, no less. Fully flanked by a Torbjorn and a Soldier 76. What do you even do?
Oh, this is just so good from Wisp. I mean, clever positioning on top of everything. The way that they worked those off angles, they controlled the flanks, that was huge. I mean, Saints, when we saw them in control, they did a fantastic job of just locking down choke points, locking down entryways. But as soon as things opened up on a map that is very much not open, that's when we saw WISP really turn things back around.
Yeah, and it was curious to see as well, it was two very different approaches to the same point, right? Saints with a lot more of that side of the map play, WISP playing so much more direct and then trying to wrap their way around and look for flanks on top of that. Different stylistically. I'm curious to see if we get kind of threads of that coming through as we head over to Control Center here. You guys certainly think it's going to be a close one, and I mean, I would be complaining if this wasn't close. We wouldn't be getting our money's worth. This match deserves every last bit we can get out of it. Well, let's look similar to last map, though. Torbjorn's come back online. No Sojourns to open things up this time. No, corrected. Sam is on, swapping off away from the Soldier 76. So a small difference between these two teams, but for right now, just positional. WISP taking a very aggressive position again, playing direct, looking for the flank with Chopper. They don't find it, though. They're unsuccessful. Icy gets pushed away, communicates that to Chopper, who wisely backs off as well. Now what to go for round 2 as Icy's health bar slowly but surely comes back up. That's an immortality pulled away from WISP as Saints look to approach yet again, but struggle to find any real foothold here. A couple of headshots from the hot Cheetos of Rocket look to do some serious damage to the back line of Saints as they're slowly but surely losing the ground they once held firmly. Whisper in control for now as Icy looks to make an aggressive move onto Mikey. A lot of the heals go towards the tank for Saints, but there's not much to help out the back line now. WISP remain exposed, and its Tree opens things up.
Oh, they're going to look to try to do something with this Ant Matrix. Great control here from WISP off the back line. They did not win the flank battle, but maybe they can go ahead and control it here as long as they hold strong. There goes Tree. WISP could take control here again.
That's a big opener because they'll get the first captive sun up. Sonjun is so far ahead of any other ultimate in the lobby. Mikey's going to back away, knowing full well what's in store from should he want to walk up to that point. They'll wait, concede the point.
I just love the way that WISP have been playing this. They know that there are occasions where they're not going to win that flank every time, and they just back off of it. Unfortunately for them, they're going to lose a player, and it's an important one as well. WISP need to get this captive sun up and get some value out of it if they want to turn this fight.
They've lost 2, and notably, Chopper's one of the players you're looking towards to trigger the captive sun proc, and that's just not available. Free instead gets to hold theirs. It's an ultimate invested, and it's come up null for WISP.
Yeah, I mean, that was all off the back of that opening pick. You keep seeing this kind of happening where one of these early picks come out and a team tries to see if they could turn the fight, but unfortunately for them, it's just so hard to come back in these kinds of fights where, you know, there's not as much of that, you know, high tempo aggression. It's more just looking for those picks, staying back, staying insulated with your back line, and trying to make something happen from there over time, winning through pressure. Now Saints are going to have to find a way to maintain that. Certainly Captive Sun is going to be a big boon in their pockets, I think.
I like this side lane push by Icy, though. Just kind of ignoring Tree on the side lane. Just to control the edge of the map. Terror Surge completely shuts down in the midst of jumping away as well. Saints have lost a couple of players, but as have WISP. Scrappy one on the point, one that Icy is not willing to give up anytime soon, and Icy has quite a lot of support behind him, especially with Chopper taking this off angle, taking down King. This is a massive positional advantage that should absolutely sweep the rest of the Saints players off of the point.
I just love what we're seeing from WISP. I think they're playing this so smart. They know the advantage that Saints has. They're playing up on that high ground. You can see Icy recognizing the importance of this position, and more importantly than that, who is on that position there as Tree gets taken down. Still no Captive Sun usage from Saints at all, and now Sunjun is coming up at 71%. They're going to get so much more value out of this Captive Sun after getting, I mean, basically none the first time we saw it. So able to turn that a little bit back in their tides.
Yeah, but now they have to contend with quite a lot coming out from Saints here. They'll each open up with an amplification matrix. Those Squids is from a far better vantage point. Mikey tucks tail and runs, but there's nowhere to run to. You're stuck in the open, getting absolutely wailed on by Squid. Now the rest of the team to fall as long as WISP can keep it together here. Chopper pops a visor to make sure that happens, but maybe they won't be able to make sure. Icy's got to come and try and help over here on the side lane, but remember the Soldier was really the tool they wanted to get that job done, and they're just unable to contest this high ground now. All the members of WISP running away, scattering from the Captive Son of Tree. But it's just not to be had. Sam falling off the map gives at least a chance here for WISP to come back in on a re-engage, but it'll be messy.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be messy. I think Wisp definitely have a massive advantage here.
Oh, wow.
Nice spear there. I mean, you don't see opening picks like that. Now Wisp need to find something like that again here. They're going to have the ability to go ahead and fully invest in this, but they need to do it early.
Again! LOS is the supports on the first engagement to the point, and they're lucky they took down Chopper there, because otherwise it certainly would have been the death of the team. Wisp looks to move forward, doesn't combo the Captive Sun with the Terra Surge like I think they might have wanted to. Sonjun was out of position to do so. Now just have to try and take down Trey on the sideline, but even if you do, I don't think it's going to be particularly fruitful for you. Ooh! I mean, it's nice. It's a souvenir, but it's not going to win you the fight.
Yeah, I think... Ooh, okay, that's unfortunate for Wisp there. I mean, they would have loved to have been given the opportunity to go ahead and catch that fight out with Tree down. But obviously now they're going to have to wait a little bit longer. Sunjun taking that death late. Now they get one last opportunity. It all comes down to this fight here, and you look across the board, and Saints obviously have the economy advantage. Now it's just about maintaining that positional advantage. They have the high ground to the far side. And that could be deadly, because, look, Icy can't push that space anymore. They're going to have to rely on the Ant Matrix to see if they can get a pick.
I mean, regardless...
How does he get it again? He did it again!
The ults, this comp is loaded with pick potential. Zolik wasn't calling it the shooters comp for nothing here, Ix. The guns are what matters, and Wisp has plenty of them. They open the fight up and look to close it now. A Terra Surge is available for Mikey, but that's not enough to turn any fight. Chopper comes in, assassinates Vega, makes out like it never happened as well. It's a victory lap for Wisp here on Lijong Towers. They put the first point up on the board.
I can't believe Wisp got away with it again. That's twice in a row. I would love to see a replay of that if that was just, you know, a spear that caught him into the wall, or if he actually got him off the side for the second time there. I mean, Icy, incredible play. There was no reason for Wisp to have won that, but they got away with it. And I know, if I know Icy well enough, and I think I do, he's sitting there like, that's just how Icy is. I guarantee that's what he sounded like right now.
Yeah, that's one of those ones where you hit it and you're just like, ooh, they're so mad after that. Oh, God, I love our observers.
Did get him.
Oh, my God. Dude, these people are so good. Our observers are so goated. They got both the spears. I love you guys.
Icy is almost as good as our ops team. Almost.
Almost. Yeah, they just have such foresight to see stuff like that coming, man. I have no idea how they do it. Anyways, big win there for Wisp. And I think it just goes to show that, I mean, the ultimates that this comp wields are very powerful. But again, the weapons are. It has a lot of lethality just innately. The picks are just as dangerous as the ultimates. And I think that's something, as the bracket continues, as we watch more of these matches, we're going to have to learn to respect, especially when you're talking about teams loaded to the brim with mechanical capability like Wisp and Saints.
Yeah, especially with the changes that we've seen to their rosters, more especially as well. I mean, when we're talking about having players like Sunjun and Tree in the lineup and they're not playing DPS because the character that they're playing is just that good at dealing damage mid-range, and having someone that can really just aim and play mechanically, that makes a big difference. That's what sets these two teams apart, that makes them, I think, probably the two scariest teams if you can force this meta every single map.
That's not a guarantee, but they're good even without this meta. Let's be real with ourselves. They are two of the strongest teams we have, period. One of the big things I want to highlight, though, and I talked about it in the middle of that match, is just the stylistic difference we're getting out of these two. A very different approach from Saints. A lot more passive, trying to wait out these fights, play the sustain game, out-position them, out-macro Wisp and out-resource them. Wisp coming in, guns blazing, sending the Orisa into the fight and playing hard for those side lanes with Chopper. And I think the big reason we're seeing Wisp come ahead is because of that person I just mentioned beforehand, Chopper. Oh my God, what a performance on the Soldier 76. I do not think that playstyle, I do not think that composition works without Chopper doing exactly what Chopper did, which was not just play around side lanes, was not just flank, but honestly, I'd call it more of a lurk position on the Soldier 76, because it wasn't consistently one of the side lanes. It wasn't consistently monitoring one player. Chopper was all over the map at any given point in time, just poking, prodding, always managed to find the weak point in Saints' position. And I see 9 final blows for Chopper, and I guarantee you a number of those are solo eliminations on a Soldier 76, no less.
Yeah, I mean, just ripping down Torb, I think, more than anything else, because we did see some contest, I believe, from King a couple of times there, and that's where we saw Chopper get most of the value, just being able to win that 1v1 against the Torb, take him out early with the Helix before really King could react, or anyone that he catches on the side. But I do want to give some credit as well to Icy, because I think one thing that Icy constantly caught at the beginning of Overwatch 2, when we saw the swap from 6v6 to 5v5, was Icy, maybe having a little bit of a struggle trying to get over to those main tank characters, of which you can label Orisa as one of them. I think he did a phenomenal job, and we've also seen some really impressive stuff with his Winston, I think last season as well. So Icy's definitely been stepping up in a big way to make sure that he has the versatility to provide to a team much more than just the off-tank heroes that we know that he is so proficient with.
Yeah, I mean, I think Icy's doing a really solid job, especially considering the hero pool that we're used to seeing Icy have. We joked about the Icy Winston for some time, and the Icy Winston just kept getting better, and I hope the same for the Orisa. But playing up against Mikey, I think, is a really tall order. I think there was a number of times we did see Mikey get the better of Icy, and a lot of those were just in engagements where Icy was maybe out of touch kind of with the supports a little bit. There were a few moments where I saw Icy dive towards Mikey, try and punish missed cooldown usage, but would do so out of LOS of the supports, and in turn get his health bar chewed away in about a quarter second by a composition that'll take it away from you even faster than that. And so there are little bits and bobs here and there of maybe not necessarily tank play from Icy that we're looking at, but the communication between Icy and the backline that we got to make sure we keep an eye on in the coming map, which is going to be Numbani.
And I think one thing there as well is just the fact that you've got a shooter in the back line, right? You got a verified licensed shooter that isn't normally back there, So maybe that's where the disconnect can come from. It's not necessarily just directly from Icy, but also the fact that you're basically working with one support potentially. But we'll have to see what happens here as we got Numbani lined up for map number 2. And as we've seen from a lot of teams, is that there is a lot of desire to play this map in particular in A by pulling out the Sigma. And I did watch that map. We had this introduced yesterday. I did watch it again this morning. I watched obviously the matches that we had today as well. We've seen a lot more Sigma cropping up, and it does seem to work pretty well here on Numbani. Not my favorite map to see that pick pulled out, but this is probably going to be the case here for what to expect on Numbani. It is going to be Sigma. It might even be Sigma v Sigma here, actually, Dor, because we do have a couple of switch-ups to the rosters on both sides.
Yeah, Wisp looking to bring in False. So, on the other hand, Saints putting in Riker is also a big question mark. Let's go ahead and take a look at this Wisp roster and how it's changed, which is to say, not too much, but Riker coming in does scream that things are at least going to change a little bit, if not compositionally, then certainly in the communication end of things. Wisp, in turn, trading their tank. So we're still not getting an honest to goodness, main tank v main tank match. We're still mixed up between these two, which is really interesting. I think it speaks a lot about how unsettled this meta is right now, and nobody can really decide what the best thing is, especially on Numbani, where it's just been going back and forth. I mean, we've seen the D, we've seen the Winston, we've seen the Ball, we've seen the Orisa. It's really been the whole smorgasbord.
I mean, a couple weeks ago, we were seeing things like Zarya on this map. I mean, we literally watched Zarya.
The point C Zarya tech was cool, though. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just again speaks to the level of versatility that these teams have, but also just the fact that we go from one meta into another. Obviously, there are similarities between the two, but even still, I mean, we've seen the whole thing. We've seen basically every version of every comp that you could possibly see, and it's all come through Numbani for the most part. And now we get to see it kind of rounded out here. And I think obviously one thing to mention here beyond obviously the tank selections and the fact that Riker is here, we probably are going to see the dive as opposed to the Sigma pickup. Otherwise, why take out Icy? I will say that with Sunjun coming in on DPS, that probably leans me even further into that direction, that we are more likely now to see a dive than we are to see that Sigma composition from their side, but definitely expected on the other.
Well, I think one of the big things that going back to this setup for Wisp does, it just leaves their options open. How many times on Numbani, and by how many times, I mean, it's been every time we see teams play Numbani right now, they're getting steamrolled left, right, and center, and the attacking side is just swapping through comps fluidly from point to point to point because the points are so different on Numbani that being able to swap them is a major advantage. I think by leaving yourself in a more standard configuration, Wisp leave their options open to make those swaps a little bit more appropriately and adapt to each part of the map.
Yeah, I think, when I look at Wisp composition, I think when you talk about adapting, I would say that they definitely can swap, but I would say that Wisp have gone for this roster setup because they actually want to go for a specific direction, and this could be anything from Tracer Echo to Tracer Genji, Sombra. I mean, there's all these different options that you can actually pull out here, and I think that we're likely to see Wisp actually stick with one of them, maybe make an adjustment at one level, but you won't be seeing what you typically see from a team like Pip that you're talking about there, where you go from point A, okay, we take point A, now we swap over to the Orisa because it has a better fitting into the geometry of the map here. It feels better, it plays better, and we don't lose too much by making that swap after a successful first fight. So I do think that we're pretty likely here to see one version of something, but this is what? I mean, I'm raising my eyebrow right now. This is not what I expected.
So again,
putting in Riker
just
to play
a
Sigma.
reminder, Wisp have subbed in somebody who is traditionally a main tank player, who's now playing Sigma. Saints have subbed in somebody who is traditionally an off-tank player that is locking in Winston. There's your history lesson for now. I mean, again, they might just be playing for kind of the opposing sides of the map. Both of them maybe want to have something for the... Wisp want to play for the attacking side, so they can bring out a Winston there. Saints want to play for the defensive side, so maybe they can bring out a Sigma there. Maybe that's what the game plan is. But again, this map playing from either end can be so different depending on which direction you're looking at it from. It is very hard to be prepared to bring out any of the comps necessary to play on this map. Saints, nevertheless, will attempt to dive that backline. Try to push away the likes of, I believe, Neb back there. That does get away scot-free, though, and not before Saints lose Vega. Now they have to push through a choke point. It's going to be very difficult. A lot of spam comes out from this Wisp comp. Sam, fortunately, throws a lot of it back at them, but not enough to really turn the fight.
He has to be careful. Riker takes him out, so Saints, they're going to lose this fight. I mean, not after at least what was a pretty decent start. Sam really kind of controlling a lot of this, and might actually allow Saints to at least stick in this fight for a little bit longer, especially if Tree can get out. And Tree does. So now Saints have a quick reset, and you see Wisp, they're not in a good defensive position. Saints could take full advantage of that.
I'd be so mad. I'd be so mad. Anyways, Saints have somehow made something of this, despite... I mean, let's be real. Tree should have gotten staggered hard there. It should have been trolling, but fortunately it wasn't. The movement was just too good. Wisp is on the punish, and thus Saints get a clean engagement here. They dive in on the back line. Riker, the focus of the dive initially, has had the kinetic grasp forced out, though the focusing beam is gone as well for King, so a lot of that lethality is now lacking. Sonjun shows them exactly that, firing away at Sam from the opposing high ground, really laying it onto the back line, but Saints continue nevertheless, pop that Kitsune rush and get in on top of Squid. Now all of Wisp is on the low ground. This is the last place they wanted to be in this fight, but nevertheless, they're fighting from it.
They're holding this side here before False can go ahead and play aggressive. Then go with the Primal Rage, and there it is, looking for those juggles. They need to get value out of this, otherwise Saints are going to be backing off to the point, and they're going to get torn up.
Flux re-engage here, Riker dropping low. King looks for a duplicate in the backline, but remember, there's not an Ana back there to dupe and look for the anti-nade. No, instead just pays the life toll. Wisp pick up the fight and a lot of time off the clock on top of it.
If you're Saints, now what do you do? Because, I mean, at this point, you pretty much have to wait for this sound barrier. Otherwise, you're not going to get as much value out of something like a, vanilla blade, like nothing to come with it. You need some backup for Sam. Otherwise, he's not likely to get anything more than maybe one kill. And in the meantime, Sunjun is going to be right there, ready to go with the visor, and has a great angle as well.
This visor's got some real ability to do some damage, if it was from the high ground, but Sonjun did drop and is forced away by the blade. You're expecting one out of Sam, but it seems like a little bit more value than that was found out of it. Not only did it get the one, but it made a lot of space in doing so. Saints look to take it over here. This should be a whole point, but we're teetering on the edge. They'll go for it. Riker steps in, pushed back immediately by the damage of Saints. They'll have to give it up.
I think the good news, at least now, for Wisp is that they can hold this corner. Saints are forced to swap, and they're going to go ahead and match that Sigma composition. You expect Tree to make that swap as well. There it is, the Ilyari. And now on top of that, you see Wisp. I think the position is going to be so key here. The fact that they were able to get everybody into a great spot. Now they can hold this corner. Saints gave up all the momentum that they possibly could have had by forcing into this swap. So Wisp, I think, are in a good spot to be able to just take a little bit of this time bank down, at least for a fight. Maybe just one, but hey, that's
This
something.
off angle's so good. I mean, look at this flank. Yeah, what are you going to do about this? You're getting shot from every single angle imaginable. Fortunately, Rocket has gotten one, but again, the situation is still just uncomfy for Wisp. They choose to try and fight out so that the flank is a little bit less successful, and you know what? I think it's working pretty well for them. A good call by Wisp positionally to step forward into that fight. It pays off big time.
Yeah, there's nothing Saints can do. As soon as they send that flank out, that's actually a pretty easy call for Wisp. That's not very difficult to make in the moment at all. To be able to just step forward and go ahead and take that 5v3, it's almost inevitable that you're going to win that fight. However, it does buy some time for Saints to start building up that economy, and that is very important because Wisp are going to start having to spend in this fight. You can see yet again that setup going 3x2 yet again. We'll see what Wisp want to do this time around. They should be able to notice that, hey, there's only 3 people in front of us. We know that there's some other players working that side. You can see Rocket.
Wisp, though, aren't set up in the same way that they were before, where they can just push forward into this. Oh, God. Oh, God. This could be huge. Pops one. It blows up the immortality field. Fortunately, they just escaped. Now we start trading off players one by one, though. The Sigmas looking to shut down one another's flanks. Riker does so dutifully, though, for Wisp. And without that flank power, Saints going to have a real hard time fighting this one front to back.
Yeah, this corner hold is just so difficult to get past. Fall's going to try to see if he can get something going with the grab flux. It's going to allow Saints to step forward, and that might be what opens this up. Wisp, half Neb getting down low. It's going to be Riker taking most of the pressure.
I mean, to be honest, the big thing here isn't the grab flux. It's that they had the closer spawns. Wisp got their trade up earlier, and thus could take a really aggressive position, or rather Saints could. That gives them the high ground. That gives them this pressure. I mean, I can commend Riker for trying to hold the space, but it's just a numbers game at that point.
Yeah, Sam did a great job of working up to that high ground, getting up over the top of Wisp. That's going to be the difference maker here, and you can see them setting up right there again. Wisp needs to try to take control of the space, or at least push Sam off of it. Tree, should be quick to be able to go, but yeah, they're going to go underneath, and that's gonna be very difficult to play from here.
There's not even a contest either.
Yeah.
Just a Molten Core pop by King. It's a cheap fight here for Saints. They're very happy about that. I think, yeah, it was a time thing more than anything. They would have loved to try and take that high ground, but Riker's very slow and just can't pass up that way in time.
Yeah, those shots, you're going to be able to get up there. And then, I mean, even just sending 2 players up there to try to contest, you're saying you're going to gamble the 2v2 before a fight, and you still have to contest. They can, fight the point. You can't because you're pushing through them. Yeah, it's almost impossible.
It's just an ugly fight.
Yeah, almost impossible there. Tree, though, going to make this one a little bit nicer here. Neb goes down, so Saints have full control as long as they can hold this off angle, but might be a little bit late. Wisp might have gotten control already, and looks like that is the case.
Oh, a well-placed bit of lava there, directly on top of the healing field. Yeah, Sam will just get poked down after that. Wisp, good hold now. This is where they got to dig their heels in and set anchor.
70 seconds on the clock here for Saints, and again, this comes down to that corner hold, but I do think that high ground is going to be key here, and at least getting control of it early, then falling off of it, that's going to be key, I think, for Saints, especially once we see things like Sam coming up with the visor, or King getting into a good position. You can see them now going off of that high ground, making sure that everything is on level ground, but still, there is a lot of consideration for this corner, and the fact that Riker can hold this, that backline can be safe. Neb is going to have Cap the Sun, but they might not even need it here.
I mean, it is so hard for Saints to get the flank off, and thus they're completely grouped up. Grouped up for a Captive Sun on top of that. Yeah. I mean, Sam gets poked out, but even in the next fight, you're going to have the same problem.
I would say it's even worse now because this is last fight where Saints can't kind of jockey for position. They actually have to play the point. It's forced upon them here with the timing the way that it is, but at least they're going to start from the high ground here. False can use grab flux to kind of keep himself safe a little bit as long as he gets away from Riker, who of course has it as well. But Saints, economy-wise, positionally, not in good spot.
No, Captive Sun almost certainly going to be the first thing popped here by Wisp when they want to take that engage. No, it's the Fluxes. Traded either way. Neb looks to combo, though. Chucks in the Sun. Catches a few members, but is now caught with his pants down as Sam pops him out of the sky. Sonjun looking for a creative flank here. If Wisp can buy time, this might pay off. Drops, gets one, but nothing more. It's Vega, though, a critical target that Saints really needed to sustain their way through this fight. Now unavailable. They're lacking in heals, lacking in numbers. Oh, Whisper lacking in tanks, though. This is a mess here.
Oh, Captive Sun might turn this fight, though. If they can catch Rocket and get the explosion, they got it, but they didn't kill. Rocket's still alive.
Oh my god, the small hitbox of Torbjorn is saving the day yet again here. The deja vu, we saw it yesterday here. It's in the exact same position. The Torbjorn does it again in the final moments of Numbani. He holds despite 5 players trying to pressure him, holding stalwart behind the cart.
Unbelievable. Torbjorn does it again. I mean, a good start, I think, by Saints. They were able to, get a decent amount of value off of this dive and be able to switch up. I mean, WISP did such a good job of recognizing those important key areas where they could fight from defensively and get a lot of value out of those corner holds. And they did get a lot of value out of those positions. And I think that was key in setting themselves up for the final corner hold. Ultimately, I think Saints, they played pretty well. They had good flank control, especially. You could see Tree right there showing off exactly what I'm talking about. But again, that kind of like main core fight just kept going the way of WISP because we saw a lot of time spent by Saints establishing those flanks. And in the meantime, the fight was already done.
That's the big thing, though. It's like on point C, getting those flanks off at all is, nigh on impossible from the attacking side. If you get stopped up right there, of all places where you have to fight through the choke with the cart acting as cover for the defending side, that's where you can start losing this map, and it gets out of hand. Now, though, we swap sides over. WISP looking to attack. Saints offer up the same defensive composition that we saw from the opposing side. WISP, though, attacking with the Orisa.
Yeah, that's interesting that we see that. I mean, again, because you know what is on the roster right now. It's interesting that this is the dynamic at play for WISP, but we'll have to see how it plays out here, as we also see the Hanzo in play as well. So it is pretty likely here that we're going to see WISP try to establish themselves up on this high ground, push Saints off of it, and then just sit there until they can find a pick.
I like this little tech
pushed
by WISP quite a bit. This Hanzo can get a lot done in the face of a Sigma. Shuts down the shield, takes away a lot of abilities, can force out the kinetic grasp super duper early, is a major damage threat from virtually every angle. See Riker creeping down on point now, and it's very difficult for these tanks. Bit of a chess match as they try to maintain and jockey for position down low. False decides to ignore that battle, looks to push the high ground alongside Sam and King, and does so really well, shutting down Neb and Rocket, who are left stranded by Riker.
Oh, that was just such a good pivot from Saints. I mean, WISP had the right idea. The idea is you go up top, you shove off that Sigma core, that 3-man hold, static hold, and as soon as you push it off, you just sit there. You just sit there until you find more kills. You have the pick potential. You have the ability to just lay in, and then should you find an opening, that's when you can drop. But WISP didn't really have that opening yet, then made the drop and got caught off guard with Squid still sitting up. Then Saints noticed the isolation, they pushed into him. So WISP need to adapt, they need to make sure that they have a little bit more patience this time around. There's the push.
They push the Sigma off. They have to, again, be careful of that Sigma coming back
don't
up
go
the
too
stairs
early.
and re-engage. Yeah, exactly. Hold our cards, fire away. Riker can contest that Sigma again should they need to, but the health bar is too low. And without that spin, that's a long cooldown. They've got to wait to come back before they can push this again. Fortify is used as they aggress all over again onto this high ground that they had already fought for earlier. They better make it worth it, and they do. Vega down, Rocket traded. Riker in Narnia again as False just tears the backline asunder.
There's still opportunity here as long as Riker and Sunju can find some sort of miracle pick, and Sunju finds one! WISP is still in this.
They've been bailed out again by the Hanzo. Another Storm Arrow connects, and False certainly can't drop, especially into this Dragon. Nicely played by WISP. It was very risky for Riker to step up like that and, effectively strand the rest of the team, but Sonjun made the most of it.
Yeah, I think great play from WISP, obviously knowing exactly how to play this comp out. Still a little early for my taste, you know me, but nonetheless, they got the job done. Thankfully for WISP, they've got Sunjun on the roster, so it doesn't really matter. Able to find 2 of those picks once the fight breaks down, but now Saints, they make their adjustments. King actually going over to the Genji here. And now it's all about WISP trying to deny this front corner, and it looks like they've already done that. So that's good news for WISP on their attack. They need to reclaim some time here that's been lost.
Well, that's a good start. Tree down. Saints can't really hold. They'll wait for their support to come back up. Probably no. They're visoring in from an off angle. What are we trying to get out of this? I mean, Neb just responds with a Captive Sun. Dive forward towards False. Yeah, this is an easy engagement for Wisp. I mean, they don't really get too much out of it. False, if False goes down, it is disaster for Saints here. Riker smells blood in the water. Is hunting him down like a rabid dog, but can't quite find his target. We are in last fight territory, though, and there's more ultimates yet for Wisp. Visor, so we pop to see out the latter half of the fight before Tree gets that Captive Sun off. Saints want to find a clean re-engage here, but they simply don't have the space.
Oh, this is it. Saints can turn this fight around. They've already got the pick. Tree's going to make it more.
These Captive Suns from Trees have just been so good, and False wisely held all of the cooldowns for the exact moment when they wanted to make that re-engage. Well done.
Especially with Saints backed up into a corner. False unable to really support the 3-stack in the back line, and then all of a sudden Saints just decide, you know what? Man up. Let's go ahead and step forward. That's exactly what they do. Just getting full control. Now Wisp are going to have to push back into this, and they're going to be doing so into a grab flux. There's a lot of opportunity here for Saints to just go ahead and find 1 or 2 kills, and that's all Saints really needs to establish their defensive hold, especially if King can get some value out of this blade that's going to come in. Again, all he really needs is 1 kill, and he's done it without the blade now.
Forget the blade. We got to deflect, and that'll be enough. Wisp have to back away. The time bank's getting too low to bleed out anymore.
Just like that, Saints get a fight win after basically they spent nothing, so that's really, really good for them. They would have had to have spent for that last fight. They basically would have lost a point in the next one. Now they might actually be able to get a full hold here on B, which would win them the map, basically just off of that 1 deflect.
Terror Surge aggressively. King dashes out, hacks and slashes at Rocket, eventually gets it, but damage is done on the other end as well. He got his 1. There's more fights to be had. Wisp's gotta go. We gotta keep it snappy here. Spawn advantage is starkly in favor of Saints. Wisp step forward aggressively, but they can't find any real purchase in this fight. King goes down, but the flank is still very much alive for Saints until Rocket, coming off of, I believe, Spawn, shuts it down.
And not only that, but also Wisp somehow get 2 players out with 1 HP, and they reset their health. They're stabilized. Namely, it's Riker, and he's pushing forward.
False has no more cooldowns and is stepping forward here. You're absolutely going to go down. Yeah, Wisp, pick it up there. Saints have to be careful not to give up too much more here, because that yellow box is deceptively close.
Yeah, they've basically got 1 fight left. If Saints lose this next one, that is all she wrote. That is the map going the way of Wisp. And again, Saints were in a great position to win the last fight because of that deflect kill that King got, and it just kept that last fight just so cheap. Now they're in a position where they don't look so great to be able to win this one anymore, and see Rocket rocking this flank, just waiting for that opportunity.
There's players back here, sees Tree. Tree bursts away, needs to stay alive to hit the Captive Sun. Does so respectfully, but now we're nearing the yellow box. We go back around, Captive Sun out. Rocket manages his dodge. Fortunately for them, though, the rest of the team not so lucky. A minute 35 on the clock. Saints have to need a miracle to pull this one out. There's not much contest left for Saints, but they've got the closer spawn and more firepower. King, notably, is getting a lot done here.
Yeah, I think King and Tree should be able to easily deal with Riker here. Squid's going to come back into this one. Missed the jump up top, though. If they would have been able to connect
Squid got
up
out
top, that would have been a great reset. Now it's going to take a little bit longer. This gives opportunity for Saints to get back into position. Now it's going to be a lot harder here for Wisp.
Sonjin, I believe, is trying to come in from the Tiger, and you have to be careful because King is up there to contest. Actually, Sonjin, yeah, decides to drop. That's better. Neb, Captive Sun, comboed with the Terror Surge. It's huge! Triggers, but Riker's down. They're bleeding out players. They've done so much damage, but they need to finish off these health bars. False, though, is unfileable on front of that cart.
0.24 meters, Door. 0.24 meters. That's all that was left for Wisp. Now there's one last fight here, and Wisp are going to have to hope that they're going to be able to find a pick, and it is not looking good. Look at the situation that they're in economy-wise. This is the worst possible situation to be in. If ever there was a time for Sun Jun to just be an absolute miracle worker, it has to be now.
Look, they're playing the shooters comp for a reason. They gotta just hit the heads. A dive in from King. A blade not available to be used. Put himself in a bad corner against Rocket. Grab Flux doesn't find anything. That's one ult dodge. Visor out. That's a second. The Captive Sun's gone. The Dragon counterplay. Wisp cascade over the point. False on the back foot. The tank can't contest any longer. It's 4 ultimates down the drain for Saints as Wisp establish themselves as the top dog dog going up 2-0 in the series. They don't give a damn about your ultimate economy.
If ever there was a meta where ults don't matter, it feels like it's this one. I mean, shooter's gonna shoot, man. That's just what's gonna happen. Sunjun has come up and been absolutely incredible in the clutch. You see this moment here, play of the match. This was the one that really set the tone for the attack. Just seeing that, what was it, 3v3, I think. Just absolutely obliterating everyone in their path as Riker was just holding down the objective, and we saw it time and time again. It wasn't the only time that we saw this happening, and it wasn't always Sunjun as well. Happened on the other side. Tree getting those picks. Ping able to be that star player as well, and just absolutely ruin what should have been a free fight for the other side. It keeps happening. Unfortunately for Saints, they just can't get it to happen enough for them to win a match.
It's just happening a little bit more for WISP. I mean, there were so many opportunities in that last fight, but I mean, the Dragon cut everything off. King certainly did put himself in a bit of a sticky situation with the Mei, the dash, maybe not the best of them, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, a small mistake can turn into a major fight loss when you're talking about teams of this caliber.
WISP go up 2-0 in the series. That makes it match point as we're heading into map number 3. And as we've said before, there is a lot. What you dash? What? There's a lot riding on this map number 3, because as we go further into the series, map 4, map 5, there is definitely a lot less value in the counter picks that you can get in the map pool. And I would say even for map 3, there's a little bit less here as well, especially considering the fact that we've seen so much differentiation rather, in what these two teams can provide. The map picks, the counter picks rather, don't feel like they're going to have even as much value in map number 3 this time around, because again, you can just switch up the roster, flex anyone else back in, and all of a sudden that counter pick doesn't mean anything anymore, it feels like.
Yeah, this isn't your kind of regular contenders match where you can expect the map pick to kind of go back and forth. I think with teams that are this good, every map's neutral territory. It's just, what do you feel comfortable in? Where do you feel your strengths lie in the current match? And for me, I feel like a lot of that has been positional for Saints. They want to work around those side lanes. They want to keep the map pretty open. They've been doing a good job of it when they take the less direct fights against WISP and are able to avoid those WISP hard engages that we've been seeing time and time again. They can find those wins a lot more consistently. So that's what I'm looking for out of the next map pick.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking to see if they can establish that. Obviously, if we move on to a map number 3, then we're certainly looking at, for that, probably Gibraltar. Maybe you could talk about something like a Dorado coming out. Either way, we're going to have to wait and see. We're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, it'll be map number 3.
There are days I will always remember, when the sun and the world were bright. Solar energy filled all our needs, but only a few could bring the sun's power into themselves. These were the Inti warriors, but we call them the children of the sun. They aided our people in so many ways, as providers, healers, and in times of danger, our protectors. I was always told I would become a warrior, a big responsibility, but I had a gift that could help my people. So, I trained. At last came the day they said I was ready to join their ranks and embrace the sun. There are days I will always remember. Was it my fault that no one knew the true extent of my power? To this day, I still don't understand what I did wrong. But it doesn't matter anymore. I will make up for what I've done. Because I am Iliari, and I am the last child of the sun.
Welcome back, y'all. The first two maps have, quickly, but I don't think easily gone the way of WISP. They've had to fight pretty hard for these against Saints, but they are taking a lead that I think not many people saw coming in this manner. If you looked over towards the qualification stage, a lot of people were touting Saints as a top dog. Every time we interviewed people, it's like, oh yeah, it's close, except for Saints. Every time I hear someone say that, I'm like, but are they that far ahead? Because then we watch them get played close by somebody. And this is another one of those days where it's like, okay, the past couple of days, people have been building up Saints, but WISP are doing a fantastic job playing some really clean Overwatch, and Saints have a run for their money. That's not to say they're not an incredible team in their own right.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, no one's putting down WISP at all. No one at all should be, and I don't think is putting WISP down, especially with what they're doing right now to what has been a very, very strong team for a very long time and has now only gotten stronger as well by bringing in players like Sam. But we're going to be moving on to a map number 3 where I guess now we really get to see the best possible opportunity for Saints to turn this back around and involve those star-studded players, those top-level, shooters as we call them. This is the best map for that. Circuit Royale going to be map number 3 here. This is where you do manage to bring your DPS into the fold a little bit more as opposed to some of the other maps that could be in the pool. This is the one where Saints are going to be able to leverage that lineup. Unfortunately for them, it's going up against an impeccable lineup on the other side still, so it doesn't mean as much in this matchup as it otherwise may against other teams.
This map can and will turn into a highlight reel when you're talking about teams of this caliber with this level of mechanical play. But there's
especially with the sub that they're making.
Yeah, we've got some big stuff coming in terms of substitutions. We'll get to that in a second. It's kind of expected for this map. The one thing I want to point our eyes at, though, is whether or not we get Illari or Zenyatta on this map. I think the Discord at this kind of range can be extremely powerful, and when you're talking about a map where people are going to be running Sigmas, having a Transcendence to counter out that ultimate is a really, really nice tool. So I think at least what we're seeing in the lobby is tree loading into play for Saints here in a second. It screams that Saints want to lean towards probably the Illari. Over on the other end, though, maybe that's not the case.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess we'll have to wait and see. That's definitely an option. However, yeah, Tree probably leans a different direction. The big thing that I want to make mention of is the fact that we see Vision coming in on a Vision map. So this, I think, does bode well for Saints, where, again, you want to have that best opportunity for your shooters to shoot. And this is definitely one of Saints' best shooters, right? This is absolutely someone, when you're in a clutch situation, the best player for the job is always going to be Vision. So it makes a lot of sense to bring him in now.
What did Kenobi say? Fate of the universe on my line. I need a shot hit. It's Vision every single day of the week.
Every single time.
Yeah, I think amongst the shooters we have in Contenders, Vision, I think, actually might set himself apart. Just in that own ability to transcend gameplay in final moments of maps. Nevertheless, though, on the other side, and we've got WISP, and this is the swap that I want to talk about. The fact that we get Sonjun playing it on DPS, Neb over on the other side playing support. Neb still could go the Illari route. Maybe they just wanted Sonjun in so that they had two players with more long-range options in the DPS role. But, like I said, Neb's still somebody that can open up that Zenyatta pretty significantly, and I don't think it's a bad pick here at all. We talk
I mean,
all about Alari, but Overliable's right there. I'm just saying.
I mean, I will say that this is for their side, it is still the same setup. The only change they made was changing Rocket over to Chopper. That's the only actual subs that they actually made for this map in particular. We did see Neb in the last one, obviously. So yeah, I mean, Alari would still make sense because that's what we saw Wisp playing in the last map already with Neb on the board as it was. But bringing in Chopper, I think, is going to bring a different element as opposed to Rocket, where Chopper is going to provide more of that mid to long range kind of specialty that certainly Circuit Royale definitely requires. So I think these subs make a lot of sense. Both sides, obviously. With Chopper in the mix, Sunjun's still there. I'm definitely curious to see what kind of DPS lineup we're going to get on that side. But either way, Icy's back in the mix. So is False staying in as well. But yeah, definitely a lot on the table here for both sides in terms of what they can provide here. We could see things like Alari. We could see things like the Zenyatta. It's funny to mention Zenyatta being this big pivotal potential thing when in reality there's just so much going on.
Yeah, look, regardless of how the comps actually shake out, the goal is still the same. It's still shoot. We're going to be throwing a lot of damage down longer ranges, seeing who can find the picks more often than not. As much as I want to highlight really good Sigma play, Icy and False are both so good at Sigma respectively that it can often be kind of a zero-sum game when you talk about Circuit Royale for the Sigmas once you hit a certain kind of skill level. And these two are certainly at it, right? Two of the top Sigmas that we have in North American Contenders. I think they'll have no problem being able to hold up to one another and the damage that's being thrown at them.
It looks like we're getting an early look here at what to anticipate, and I would say no shockers. I would, you know, while Ilari could be something that we could see pulled out, it's not going to be the case here. Zen makes a lot of sense. This is the traditional setup that you would expect. You have, again, both your shooters right there, Vision, Sam, ready to go on the Widowmaker and the Sojourner, respectively. So this makes a lot of sense. Now it's up to Chopper and Sinjun to see if they could actually contest that lineup. That is a difficult ask for anyone, but Chopper's going to go with that early grapple shot. This should be expected. You see this all the time with this position here, so Choppa's not going to find anything. That's good denial by Saints early.
June just chucking out damage down the longer ranges. The beginning of this map often considered a formality for most teams. Dangerous as ever, though, or they used to. Can't take anything for granted. I'm getting poked out by Stone June. It takes away that high ground. False now lays anchor on the corner. This is where things start getting a little bit hairy. How well can Sonjun work this off angle? Quite well. Sam down. And look at this. Icy immediately steps forward, but that's basically all the cooldowns for Icy. Immortality field is well spent, so 5v4, but they've got the immortality advantage, at least for a little bit, so False can hold this angle for some time.
Well, more than that, Wisp has the flank, and False is actually going to fall into that room where he's... I mean, that is just... Door, you can't do that. I mean, Door, you can't do that. You just can't. As soon as you lose that flank, that room is no longer yours in almost every reality. Unfortunately for Saints, they just fall a little bit short, and look at this time bank now, over 5 minutes to work with. Momentum definitely all possessed by Wisp as they're holding this corner. They're not going to be able to hold it for long, especially without Icy. Okay. What's going on?
It's just a handshake, you know. We're going to let our Sigma get shot from the room after having given up the space, and then we'll just give you ours in return. It's just a nice trade. This is a spot, though, where you can see teams really set themselves up, stop a lot of that progress. Saints maybe risking overextending in moments like this, though. They've already lost one. Stray arrow from Sonjun here could be the straw that breaks the camel's back. But no. Last, we wait a little bit longer to get all back up to 5 for either side, and then it's just guns blazing.
Just a matter of time before these picks come out here with the double sniper on both sides. Saints, though, coming up on these ults. They're looking to deny Chopper here, and also in a great position to do that, actually. I love the positioning False is taking here. More aggressive, still has Grab Flux to use behind this wall as well.
I mean, the threat is that Icy aggresses towards this left side, right? And if you pair that with a Dragon from Sonjun, there's a lot of very real damage to be done. False shuts it down, though, with the Gravitic Flux. Make sure that they can't make that rotation aggressively Saints insist on doing so, though. They pop an amplification matrix on the same exact angle. They refuse to give this up. They want to play aggressive on the left side, but I don't think they can. They've got to just find kills to get their way through. The Griddick Flux from Icy is phenomenal, though. Reasserts themselves, but he's got nothing to follow it up.
Just like that, Saints make a big hold. They needed that hold as well because WISP had so much time. They would have had about 5 minutes going into the final point, and that, I mean, you're gonna cap the final point if you go in with that much. And now on top of everything, you have Transcendence. WISP has nothing. So barring any crazy picks, which granted can still occur for Chopper, Sunjun, and Squid, all can find one here. Barring any of that, Saints should be able to win a second fight off this.
Inside the setup. Again, that early
They're
Zenyatta
giving this
pick that
angle.
they brought out. I mean, they're willing to. They can play pretty passively here with the Transcendence. Eat a lot of the damage and look to re-engage with it. Oh, not that much damage, though. Again, this isn't a traditional composition that kind of chips you down. Your health bars would disappear in the blink of an eye, and now they're just trying to use Transcendence to find their way back into the fight, but it's a far less effective retaliatory tool than it is a defensive one here.
Yeah, I feel like as soon as you give up that angle there and you allow those snipers to take that right side, I mean, it's just a matter of time before one of them finds a head. You're basically saying, we're going to gamble this for about 10 seconds and hope that we can push back out. Unfortunately, they lost the gamble, and that was just good play all around from WISP, because that's the exact same way that they opened up point A as well. If you look back to that one, they won that first contest, got the flank control, and then were able to win the fight off of it. Saints have to be a little bit more mindful of that going forward here. Luckily for them, a lot of these coming fights are all going to keep things in front of them. I think that does help them, especially with things like Grab Flux coming up and finding picks onto key players.
Yeah, that certainly makes things a little bit more comfortable. 3 minutes. You can take it for granted on this C point, that's for sure. Oh, Chopper opens up onto Sam. Attacking side now has at least something to work on, especially with the damage now lacking. We see Icy step forward. There's no threat of that Hanzo. There's no threat of getting chunked out quite in the same way. You can force out some rotations from Saints. See how they all go to the low ground now and have to fight from there. Unfortunately, you lose one of your own. And again, we can watch these Sigmas go all day here, but they're reacting with what the DPS players are able to shovel up.
WISP working this corner, waiting for one player to step up just a little bit. Actually just setting up for their flank off on the side here. It's going to be a battle of the snipers and Zenyatta. We'll call Zenyatta a sniper for the time being, but this is an insane duel to go 2 versus 3 here. Dragon Strike to push them out as well. They're going to win it.
Oh my! The shotgun Dragon Strike. You've never seen it done like that from 2 feet away. Catches him through the wall, but Vision strikes back!
Vision!
In the heat of the moment, when you need him most, guess who always arrives? It's Vision, baby!
And not only that, but he's able to flick target to target to target. Yes, Chopper is able to reset the fight a little bit here, but it is all dusted. Sam's going to be able to claim that kill. Chopper has a great moment, but it is just absolutely... It pales in comparison. Unbelievable. Now, can he do it again, Dor? That's the question. Can he do it again?
I don't know. You can only, like, mute your teammates and turn on the music so many times, you know? We'll see.
That's true. Vision is not calming anymore. That's a guaranteed fact. Vision is no longer calming. The comms are completely deafened. He is out of them. He's just about to hit shots, and that's it.
Sunjun, after having maybe learned his lesson last time, doesn't this time. Chopper, able to shut down the Vision train before it gets a chuggin'. Sunjun then steps forward with all that space. This should be wraps. I don't see False living for too long here. Tree does have a Transcendence. They can get back in time, but False being so far out of sync with it, I think it's going to spell ill.
Yeah, now we see 2 ultimates expended just to get back onto the objective, and they're not going to be able to stay for all too long. I mean, it's a Zenyatta there that had to disconnect from that fight, and that's going to be a cap here coming in for WISP. But again, it really, I think, comes down to those DPS players. We talked about it at the beginning of the map as well. That Circuit Royale just offers that clean opportunity to go in and just provide for your DPS to just take control of the game. And we saw it going back and forth. Vision absolutely a shooter's shooter, right? That is when you want that final shot to be taken, when you got one guy that can just nail it down, that's who you want every single time. Unfortunately for him, the other person in that conversation in terms of NA contenders is going to be Sunjoon, and I would say that there's a little bit of a 50-50 going on here because we've seen Sunjoon clutching up a few times already in this matchup and has done so as well against Vision already.
Yeah, like we said, this map can just turn into a highlight reel so fast, and with players like this, 3Ks, 4Ks are virtually inevitable. The big thing I'm looking for, though, isn't anything particularly flashy, but maybe it is asking quite a bit. That's some time to be taken off here at A here, because that is a big opportunity for the defending side.
Want to talk a little bit as well, just the importance of these positions in the fights. Getting flank control off of this back corner right before the A cap. Getting control at the top of the ramp, going towards B. These are all incredibly valuable positions. If you can get flank control, you can really set the tone in a fight. I mean, just talk about giving opportunities to your DPS. That's exactly what that kind of stuff can do. So definitely look for that positional control, how these teams vie for those spots. You know, sitting a sniper back on that statue, you can see, of course, all the way back there, that little green highlight, that silhouette, Chopper back there. If Chopper loses that position, this fight is over. Luckily for WISP, they've got an early pick, so holding it isn't going to be too difficult from here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pick you can just wait out, though. The cart's still pushing. This is still the formality bit of the map.
Right.
Talk a little bit about stats in the meantime, though, because that's what we have to look at when we're talking about these DPS players. Chopper and Sonju coming up with a combined 18 final blows. Sam and Vision combined for 11, but remember, like 4 or 5 of those were in the one fight where Vision just went insane, so the opposing side of WISP, I think, certainly getting the better of it. The Chopper at the lead of all that false down now spells for that trend to continue.
Just gotta love the way that WISP have played this offensively and defensively now. I mean, just the control that they have of this flank. Great job from Sam to get re-involved back into this one. I'm not sure how much more they can get here. If they're able to tie this one up.
The drop was ambitious. The drop was ambitious.
But I think that was their only play in that moment. If they're able to drop in and just collect 2 kills off the drop, they win that fight then, and that's great.
If we could have just not missed the 2 arrows from high ground finishing off the half HP target, that probably would have been perfect. But sure.
You wanted a little bit more patience. You're going back to Numbani.
No, I just wanted the shots to connect. I don't know. Like, once we missed the shots, we could have just left instead of all-inning. But I digress. Sam's down again, unfortunately, and Saints are going to have to wait out those spawn timers yet again. And that 10 seconds adds up here, because it adds up quick.
Yeah, it's going to amount to a little bit more than that, too. Sunjoon goes down. Vision wins that duel, which makes this a 4v4 again, but it's going to be pretty quick before Saints actually find their next player, and Vision has found yet another kill, and now you see that statue. Now it's owned by Saints, and Vision is owning all of WISP.
Have we learned nothing here? Vision does not get kills in ones. It simply does not happen. Around the corner we go. There will be one last contest here from WISP. It's just Icy, a bit on his lonesome on the low ground. That rock is going to do him in, though. Mortality kill can't possibly get there in time. That's an A point going the way of Saints.
Yeah, WISP are going to have to completely back up and give up a lot of space based off of the timing of that death by Icy there as well. So this is good news for Saints, who want to be able to control this forward position. They have a ton of ults to back them up. Yes, WISP have some here as well, but now Chopper's down, and Saints can step forward at least a little bit. They don't want to overextend here. They just want to hold this choke point as best they can, and that's exactly what they're going to look to do.
I don't say it's turning around, but the numbers are certainly starting to sway a little bit more in favor of Saints, and that's not just because they're winning the map. Chopper and Sonjoon are getting eaten the 1v1s by Vision and Sam more often than not. One of those coming up right now. Sonjoon forced to back away after being dropped half HP, and down he goes again. That is Sam beating Sonjoon out, getting forced into false. Great stuff, playing on that side lane like you were talking about, just like on Statue at the beginning of A. Sam takes the wide angle around the pit crew, plays it smart, forces Sonjoon out of position into the welcoming arms of false, and that opens up the entire thing.
Yeah, clinical from Saints. Just owning that side is just basically a free win when you're able to control that. And you, again, have the ultimates to back you up. That's the firepower you need on top of the firepower of just getting these early picks as well. It just makes the fights even cheaper. Now you still maintain things like Amp Matrix. You have Transcendence as well. Those are big key difference makers in fights where you know Wisp isn't going to have those options available. You can answer things like Grav Flux that are going to come out here. Now again, barring some miracle play by someone like Chopper or Sunjun, this should be a Saints fight win. We'll see what they can do.
Aggressive Transcendence to get out and try and take this high ground. What's the angle that Vision wants to look for, though? It's a very tricky position. Everybody cowers away from the Gravitic Flux initially of Icy. Sam stuck in a corner, though. Gets dogpiled by the rest of Wisp there. The second set of ultimates wins, and again, you spent Transcendence without that Flux coming out, and I think that's the big thing.
Yeah, and I think on top of that, it just really comes down to the fact that Wisp were just really good on their disengage because they saw that opportunity open up. They could just hold the fight a little bit longer. They'll have the opportunity to pivot with the Grav Flux. But staying alive against a team pushing into you with the Transcendence is a lot to ask, and they still maintained it. Now, though, they're going to be having to pull out this fight by holding down this corner. We saw them do this before on their attacks. Now they have to go ahead and try to do it on their defense. This is very difficult of a position for Icy to play from, especially with an Ant Matrix in his face.
I mean, you can step through the Ant Matrix. That's a good first step. Icy, though, has run out of cooldowns and is going to run out of health bar just as fast. I think the nice part, though, is that Wisp did have the opportunity to at least take this fight forward, so they're not losing as much progress for losing it.
Yeah, worst case scenario, they're going to lose the corner, but they still have the archway, that choke, that's so important. Then also that fight is going to happen up top poolside, more than likely, for those snipers trying to get control of the high ground. You're going to see Sam already working into this position, has Dragon Strike available. Remember what Sunjun was able to do with the Dragon Strike in this position on Wisp's attack. Sam is looking to try to recapture that, and it looks like actually Wisp leaving that position. They just want to control main here, a little bit more emphasis on that position until
Saints,
finally
though.
now they can slide over.
Look at this rotation by Saints. They get to the high ground. Can Icy match it? Yeah, Icy reads the play. This is good. Great stuff by Wisp. Dragon Strike's going to be a little bit hard to equalize against, so especially with the Grav Flux behind it. That's the real scary part about this. Icy just eating a mouthful of Dragon Strike. There's nowhere to go for Sunjun. Pushing the card as well are Saints. Icy fluxed up, taken down. 1:52 on the clock now for Saints. They've got double the time bank that Wisp is offered up on their own attacking side. Chopper tries to fight back, but it's fruitless, and there's no recontest tools. The Transcendence still a spawn and 8% on top of that away. Maybe you can get a tank here in time, but I think it's a long shot, especially after Visions just clocked them.
So Saints in with 47 seconds up over Wisp, who felt like they had a pretty dominant run on their attack. Now not feeling the same way anymore here.
I mean, let's take stock of those elims, those final blows from the DPS. It is flipped on its head entirely now.
Now, I will say Sam has died quite a bit so far in these fights, but has dished out. Sorry?
12 is a big number.
Yeah, 12 deaths is a decent number of deaths, I will say. In spite of the fact that we've gone on for quite some time now on this map, both teams going the distance, finding the end of the map, obviously. But Sam has definitely felt the brunt of a lot of that Chopper and Sunjun dynamism, right? Either way, though, has still been able to have a pretty solid impact, especially in terms of just working that flank. That's why Sam has had more deaths than anyone else in the lobby, because Sam is basically forced to take a lot of these engagements on the side, trying to possess the flank against Sunjun, against, even at times, Choppers on opposite flanks. They're basically just pinching in on Sam. In some cases, Icy's working those angles. You see Neb and Squid at times, sometimes folding over into the flank as well. So it makes it a lot more difficult for Sam to do his job, especially because Saints have basically, when they own the flank, they've been doing it by overloading that side. They've been overpacking with numbers, 3x2 splits happening actually quite often. Now we'll see what they can do now that they feel like they probably have more confidence. And that's a big factor when you're talking about sniper and spam comps like we see here.
OT, though, and we have to remind ourselves here, this is the last chance for Saints. They do not get another one after this map. They need to make it happen. Yes, they have more time, but that is anything but a guarantee here on Circuit Royale. A lot of the time will be spent in neutral, will be spent poking away. Sunjun nearly buys a massive point here for Wisp. It was Sunjun last time, in fact, I believe, taking down player back at statue. Sam this time plays a lot more carefully, understanding just how valuable that side angle is. Even if you're not actively getting kills from it, just existing there is giving Saints so much.
Yeah, you can see the importance placed on that position. Statue is everything. If you're going to be able to work this corner, you have to get control of that space, and that means displacing that one player. Usually it means killing that player, and both snipers, Chopper and Sunjun, are both laying into Sam. That's why this player has 12 deaths, and it's insane that he has only 12, actually.
Yeah, with this kind of focus, Icy steps forward, though, and slowly but surely, instead of becoming a statue, it's more of an island that Sam's gonna be on. If this cart gets pushed any further here, you have to be so careful. Sonjun down, though, and Sam hammers back. Overtime begins to burn down now. False holds the position, amplification matrix out. That is all she wrote. Wisp will have to get an even closer hold than this, and that is a very tall order.
That was such a great push, great timing. That's the best case scenario that you could possibly ask for from Icy. Gave them the only shot that they could really have in being able to actually push through this space and be able to get around this corner. Unfortunately for them, for Wisp, they just weren't able to displace Sam. Sam was just locked in on that statue side and then returned fire and got a pick to set the tone for them, gave them that 5v4 advantage.
It's crazy Sam got a pick. Just living would have been enough.
Yeah, living alone is enough. But being able to return and get that pick, that is massive. A big reason why Saints are able to be in the position that they're in, where it feels like they should have a good shot to be able to steal this map away. And again, Sam basically forced to do it alone and was effectively 1v3 with multiple members of Wisp backline trying to deal with him, because it's really just Icy working the front, trying to win the main fight, and Neb forcing all of his resources into Icy to try to keep him alive long enough for Chopper, Sunjun, or Squid to find that pick, and they just never could. So now Wisp have to basically recreate that scenario and hope for the best. I mean, they do a good job of finding picks on that front corner, but it's a lot to ask of any team for 1 minute and 47 seconds of nothing but perfection.
What they say, Heroics, job's not done. Job's not finished for these two. Vision have a long way to go, and again, I mean, so much weight on two players' backs. It really is up to them to get the job done. A minute 30 can go by in the blink of an eye on this point. Across the road here, heading to expected territory. It is all about this one corner. We don't see a particularly stark statue hold here from the Hanzo, though. Sonjun playing very far back, a completely different setup here than what we saw earlier out of Saints. They're trying to hold the long angle. They want to give this corner and then play on the tight angle and not give away those picks, as opposed to trying to play for the more aggressive angle and look for ones of their own.
Yeah, again, it's just so much to ask of any team for a minute 47 to just be perfect. This is a much safer play. It's a little bit more difficult for Icy, more responsibility on his shoulders to be able to sustain all this pressure, because it's all going to go into him here, especially with the extra help of the Discord orb that's just going to be sitting on that Sigma the whole time.
It could go south at any moment here for Wisp. There's waiting. Health bars full until they aren't. Chopper's down. First to go, Saints fire back. Icy next, and the dominoes go toppling over. Saints aren't done yet.
Not at all. We're going to go to a map 4 here, Doors. Saints with a map win. Able to clutch up, and of all the players, the player that we were highlighting, talking about how many deaths he had, but then bringing into the equation why those deaths were there, why it was so important that Sam was playing the way that he was, and just how much of an impact he had playing that way towards the ends. Once he got locked in, it was over. Vision obviously gave them the shot, but Sam took it at the end, and they really nailed it together.
And I want to put another stat in perspective as well. I mean, we talked about the deaths from Sam. Virtually nothing after that. It's still at 12. Meanwhile, Chopper and Sonjun both caught up. But the big thing for me is now we're not talking about a high number of deaths. Vision died 5 times. Kept it very low on the Widowmaker. And it was very consistent pressure onto the backline. Stuff that I think Wisp were having to respect quite a bit, because Chopper was so consistent when given the opportunity.
Yeah, on top of that, False with 6 as well. So again, just a lot of these fights were won by Wisp when they got flank control, and it was all just, can they deal with Sam or not? And a lot of emphasis was placed on trying to do that. Obviously, Sunjun was a big reason as to why they were successful, even in situations where Wisp were even or even down in numbers in those flank splits. But I love the way that Saints adapted. I love the way that they recognized those side angles are so important in these matchups, especially in those key areas of the map where you talk about the end of, that final statue side of point A, the top of point B, going towards that choke point, owning both sides, or at least the side with the stairs there. I mean, it is just so important to own that space, and they just had very good control of all of it for the last half of the map, actually even about 60-70%, because they were already doing it on their attack, and then they pulled it together as well in OT.
It's a good showing for Saints. My one worry is here, the Sigma map's gone. That's it. I mean, we've seen some of Sigma play on Colosseo, and like you said, you're looking at it over again, it seems pretty solid in that regard, but the pick is over to WISP. They get their pick of the litter, and I suspect they're going to go back to all reliable. They're going to try and force that meta pick again and see if they can just push them over the line that way.
Yeah, so if I'm WISP, the only thing I'm doing here is not picking Colosseo. I think that's probably
exactly.
Best case scenario. Any other map, you're probably fine. I think for WISP, there's been a tendency for a lot of teams to actually stray away from New Queen Street. It's been mostly Esperanza. Outside of that, you know, Colosseo has been a pretty popular pick, but again, I wouldn't do that here if I was them. That they could still pull it out. You could still see some success, but I think when you're talking about Sigma matchups, Colosseo is actually, funnily enough, one of my favorite maps to see the Sigma actually get played. And you're seeing teams that are good at Sigma actually be very successful on that map now, namely teams like Afterlife.
Yeah, we saw it yesterday, and seeing it today wouldn't be too much of a surprise, but again, that's if it gets picked into, and I kind of doubt that that's going to be the case. WISP have found what's work. We've kind of gone across the compositional spectrum in this game, so unless we see something like a Winston come out on Esperanza, I think we're likely to just go back to what was working for WISP before, and I think the sad part about that for Saints is that even if it does go to a map 5 again, there's nowhere where you can really rely on this Sigma to get the job done. The job only gets more difficult from here.
Yeah, and I think for Saints, it's definitely about to get more difficult. We're going to see it a little bit more closely in a second, but I'm seeing through things. I've got 2020 vision, so I not only know what map we're going to, I know why we're going there. That map is going to be New Queen Street, map number 4. So as we talked about a little bit, obviously don't pick Colosseo. What's the exact opposite of Colosseo? It's pretty much New Queen Street, but there's a reason why. I mean, the obvious decision to make here is the fact that we're going to be probably going and diverting back over to the Orisa composition because we know how good that can be, but more importantly, it's how you want to play it. And I think this roster change is going to make a lot of sense as to what I'm about to go into. WISP are changing things up in a big way. Mate Ball is coming in. Magic Mate Ball, their Lucio player is going to come in, and you know what that means. We're very likely to see the Lucio Rush version of this composition. So if Saints try to say, we're going to go ahead and we're going to play the Sigma anyways on these push maps because we've seen the Sigma have success, we're going to run you down.
It's such a sick call, too. I mean, this is, again, something that we saw yesterday that worked pretty well for Afterlife coming into the final maps, and especially when you're talking about a map that's as flank heavy as this is, where there's a lot of places to look for creative rotations, this could be fun. Saints, on the other hand, have locked in something not dissimilar, bringing Vega into the mix, knowing full well that, you know, this could be the opportunity to bring out a Lucio of their own. We'll see if they match it. It's not for certain yet, especially with Tree having been put in on that support line.
Yeah, I think my curiosity definitely peaked, though. I mean, if Fall stays in, do they have the capacity to go ahead and match that? If we see some version of a rush being played by WISP, do they go ahead and say, you know what, we'll play a rush, but we're going to play it with Ramatra or something? You know, there's so many different layers of nuance, but it looks like Vega not coming in. It is going to be King potentially here. King is staying in. So King, Sam, False, Tree, Vega. That is the lineup here for Saints. And they're going to be sticking with this for NQS. But again, like we talked about, should this go the way of Rush, Saints do have the ability to swap up to a Rush. It's just not the Rush you're used to seeing unless you're still living three weeks ago back in the group stage when things like Ramatra were more prevalent.
But I mean, that's kind of my worry here for Saints, right? We saw it in one of the series that Kenobi was covering alongside Rich, where it's like, okay, you can bring out this Sigma, but if you start losing and you swap to the same composition they're playing and you're forcing your tank to play off-roll, that's assuming you don't bring the Ramatra out, it's kind of waving the white flag. And if you do bring the Ramatra out, now it's considered a little suboptimal, right? That ultimate increase, the patch that came through, nerfing him just that bit, makes it even harder to play into now. The fact that then Wisp could go and make changes of their own to go back and counter that. I think there's still plenty of options to play into the Ramattra left to punish it on New Queen Street. I think the options for Saints, should things go south initially, are very limited. And I think that's a thing we've seen a lot of teams kind of just not account for, right? Everything is plan A for a lot of these teams. Everything is assuming that things go their way, and it's fantastic. And I think a lot of these teams at their peak are very strong, but someone's got to come out winning this match. And if that's not you, if that cart starts flying in one direction and they get 70, 80 meters, that's not something you can recover from. You need to have backup options, I feel, especially in this meta.
I think the other concern too is that when we talk about New Queen Street and who is the hero of New Queen Street, my mind immediately goes to Vision. That is immediately where I'm going, and you know exactly. I saw you smiling off camera there for a second because you knew where I was going with that. You knew right away when I said hero of New Queen Street where I was going with that. But guess what? Vision's not here in this lineup. It's King, Sam, and Tree. Again, that triple threat that Saints can bring.
All of their DPS except for Vision.
Yeah, everybody but Vision is being played for Saints. So, yeah, I mean, definitely a little bit of I wouldn't say it's a concern at all, because that is just completely disingenuous to say that somehow King, Sam, and Tree being played is somehow a bad thing, because it's just not. But it is something that I'm thinking about here as Saints are preparing to go into another match point situation against a team that is picking this map. And interestingly, Wisp are doing something entirely different. We are indeed transporting back 3 weeks ago. We're bringing back that Junker Queen composition. So we are going to be seeing this rush style come out, and it's even more so than I would have expected.
I mean, they're leaning hard into the map. Since this map came out, we've known this composition was strong here. Its mobility, its ability to play from multiple angles, its ability to play in neutral in moments like this and find picks is massive. Saints, yeah, they can rotate around a lot with the mobility they have, but Wisp can engage on any of those members in the blink of an eye.
I love Sam's position, though. I mean, completely pushing Wisp out of that front-to-back rush style. Unfortunately for them, Wisp is just too quick.
They don't want front-to-back, Yurix. That's what I'm saying. They're playing this composition to abuse the fact that they can run circles, laps around Saints, and that's exactly what they just did. They threw Sonjun at them from the front, waved their shiny, bedazzled whatever, jangled their keys in their face, and look over here, and then Icy came and slashed them in the backs with an X. What are you gonna do?
Every time that speed is up from Mateball, from Icy, whatever it may be, Saints have to be able to react and disengage. Unfortunately for them, they don't have speed to do so. So it's all going to come down to False to just back off Icy. And in the meantime, Sam has to find a way to work around to the back and dish out damage without getting ran at either. And I think Wisp just have to make that choice in the moment. Who do we run at? And here it is actually front to back. There is no flank being taken by Sam at all.
No, it just starts. It only starts that way. It only starts that way.
Okay,
look at the side lane.
Yeah,
Icy has the flank routes, and that's what you're really scared of. Saints have found a decent engagement onto Sonjun, though. Having engaged past the flank, kind of left Wisp in the dust there. Just being too slow to make their move. Now we're down a member.
So up top, Wisp is looking to go, trying to deny that 30-meter take from Saints, as Saints are going to be backing off again. All about flank control here. I think Saints recognize that they can't do that 4-1. They want to send 3-2s instead, with Sam and Tree just kind of acting as a duo on the side, where Sam is going to get a little bit of help from the Harmony Orb as well as the Discord.
I mean, this is what they want. They want to play at range. Wisp have a difficult time without the flank gap closing, running through those big open areas, because they're going to, yes, they'll get across them quick, but they're going to take a lot of damage in doing so. Fortunately, they trade one back. The lead has been taken. The trades have been as well. This is a bit of a messy one now. I think Wisp certainly won an early re-engage here, at least some way to drop on top of the likes of Saints, and there is a way to, should they need it. They've got the blade to do so. Trance is the answer, though, and the visor is only denied for so long. Chopper force back sound barrier, keeping up the likes of Wisp. It's a sustain off for either side, but Icy topples over. No Saint means no contest now for Wisp. A very difficult fight to find your way through. They need picks, if anything, and one onto King is certainly a good start.
Oh, not only King, but also the turret goes down. So now the flank is owned by Wisp.
Chopper showing up again, monitoring those flanks just like he did on map 1. It's a different hero, but all the same, the operation remains. Mateball goes down, though, and we have to be careful here. Wisp can't overextend. Don't have many ways to get up to that high ground, but they do have access to Zenyatta for now. Forced to back off, though. They are by the Terror Surge. Sonjun caught out as well. Mid-jump. A beautifully timed ultimate by False buys back the fight for Saints.
Not only that, but Icy's been basically taken out of the equation for the last couple of fights. Same with Sunjun, actually. WISP have really been hurting between those two players who have typically gotten a ton of value, have had a massive amount of impact, and now so close Saints are to capturing out that first point, and we'll see them, yeah, they do get it actually before that contest, so they do have the respawn advantage here. That is so important coming into this next fight, because Saints don't have to play aggressively here.
Okay, good rotation by WISP. They look for the backline. False is gone. False is in Narnia. The rest of the team needs to scramble as best they can, and they have. Wisely backing away from that fight. Saints have reasserted themselves, and health bars of WISP are low and not going to get any higher, especially, again, when they're on this low ground, and they are so vulnerable. Gap closing to this high ground is so difficult, but they're finally up there. The ultimate makes it all the worthwhile as well. It is massive from Icy. This is such a difficult position to come back from, and they certainly won't.
I do still like this little move here, actually, by False. Just going to make this thing take a little bit longer. Not only that, but also pulls the robot all the way over to the opposite side. And if somehow False is able to sneak his way out of this one and not die, this would be incredible. Because look at the position of the robot. Now the pushbot is actually in a spot where finally it's probably going to reset the respawn, and there it goes. But it's not extending really into Saints side at all, and they have Transcendence available here to be able to match that sound barrier. And guess what? Transcendence wins 99 times out of 100.
Flank attempt again. Oh, wait. Different pages for WISP. That was not what you wanted to see. They engage. It goes south. Icy's thinking get out. Mateball's thinking sound barrier and go further in. I think Mateball actually had the right call there, but just completely different pages between the front and the back line when things went down.
Well, this is going to be another one here for Saints. It's basically better ults on both parts of that one fight.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy about trading an overclock for Terror Surge and Visor, though, at the very least. It's not bad. They got something out of it, at least.
Now they're going to be going with a Blade for the next fight. Granted, yeah, there's no Transcendence to answer, but there doesn't need to be one. Saints are going to extend this spot even further onto his side. Chopper is down, no Blade available, at least until he comes back up. In the meantime, WISP are just trying to find some way to combat False and deal with these flanks as well. Finally, they do. Sunjun gets the kill on Sam. That should be a fight win for WISP. Just off of that alone, as long as they can get these kills quickly, but Saints are disengaging well.
False is the only target. False is out of cooldowns. Yeah, that'll go. No problems taking that down. Remaining players fall pretty quickly as well. Should fall pretty quickly. There we go. Trees down. Saints back in. The only thing we're worrying about now here is we got 3 minutes and 30 seconds. That is not the most time to be working with.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, we know New Queen Street is a map that you can come back on. We've seen it time and time again. Let's see if this is going to be one of those times, though. 55 meters to go. I got the math right that time. But nonetheless, Saints know full well that they could just defend this corner. They're going to have some great economy. They can play slow. They can slow down the game way more now. That's going to be the key here for Saints.
Coming forward now. Chopper gets a lot of disengage on. Molten Core out. We're pretty happy with that. The Molten Core, I think, is a little more valuable than the Kitsune Rush in this instance, right?
Yeah, going 1-for-1 is pretty much exactly how that equation should go. Now we see that Blade available. Now we see WISP working to that side. Saints aren't pushing the cart. That's good for WISP, but they lose a player immediately.
The trance comes up just in time as well. Chopper just decides to bounce. The rest of the team still taking the fight here. Icy's got one with a Rampage, but I don't think there's going to be anything more than that. Patience with which Saints are playing. They're effectively toying with their food, which is crazy because they're the ones that are not at match point.
Well, I think there was just yet again another disconnect there. I mean, Icy went with the Rampage to try to combat the Transcendence, got a couple of purples, but Chopper was exiting the fight. So there was a little bit of a miscue there on WISP's side. I think for the second time here, WISP definitely need to clean this up because, again, you know that Saints are going to be playing this as defensively as they possibly can because they know time and position are entirely on their side. They don't even need a respawn advantage because as things push more towards their side of the map, they're going to have it anyways. and Wisp are going to be pushing into this next fight. They have the Sound Barrier. It's not going to be met with the Transcendence, so it should be a good ult to push through with if they want to play aggressively and take space. Oh no.
Playing a little longer range with the overclock, but getting anything done here realistically is going to be impossible. I love that Sam and Vega just completely hide themselves. They get that first pick and they say, no, we know that's more than enough. We don't need anything else. To push that one right back and be happy to just take time off the clock.
Two pretty big ults for Wisp to take tempo with, and they lose the fight. Now, with a minute left on the clock, like, how are you going to be able to do that again? Especially when, again, Saints can play this position exactly how they want to. They don't need to make pushes, so they can go wherever they want.
Got for Mayball, forced back. I mean, it's looking like all she wrote, man. There is no recourse from Wisp. They'll have a couple of ultimates coming into this fight. This will be their best opportunity to turn around. You know what? Maybe they have. Holy squid, Sonjun! Icy coming up with the goods. I thought it was just as Jover as it comes here. It was what?
This is, I mean, obviously a silver lining for Wisp, but we know what's ahead of them. We know that they still need to win 2 fights, more than likely, depending on the timing here. Position's going to be key as well. Wisp step up. Sunjun's down again.
Okay, early Molten Core forces them off point. 20 seconds, you could disengage to get Sonjun back if you wanted to. I think that's the right play. That's what they're going for. This is so clean by Wisp.
Icy's looking for that Rampage, looking to get in, waiting for that lineup to be perfect. Especially once you see that Transcendence, that could counter that one out. There it goes, Transcendence likely to come up as well.
Flash.
As soon as that dies down. Great move by Tree.
Blade is up, Blade is up. Chopper better make this count, it's the only opportunity. Maple picks a kill off on Vega. Chopper with the Blade, pulls it out. Saints all low, but there's just too many of them. A point is garnered by Wisp, but no more. Sonjun attempts to fight back, but it's nothing in the face of False. We're going to map number 5. The reverse sweep is alive for Saints.
First pick after first pick just kept going the way of the winning side. I mean, I also want to commend Sam because, again, flank control was entirely his job, basically alone. A few times we saw them actually throwing Tree over and then doing those three twos. But for the most part, it was all Sam. And he only died 4 times throughout the entire map. False only died 3 times throughout the entire map. Saints just did such a good job of locking in their pillars into great positions. False holding down main, Sam holding down those side lanes, and they never let them go. I mean, those were the 2 players with the least amount of deaths, and they were the players probably taking the most amount of pressure in terms of positional aggression, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, there was a lot of positional aggression. One of the things they did to mitigate it, though, I think as much as it was monitoring the side lanes, just positioning overall pre-fight for Saints. The second they got control of the map, the second they got that point, they checked out. They said, we don't need any more than that, because the most powerful thing you can have against this Junker Queen comp is distance. You can outrange it. Yes, it's quick, but crossing that much damage is nigh on impossible. Virtually, what, every fight after the first 5 minutes was just Wisp bashing their heads into a 150-meter long wall?
Yeah, it feels like that might be the case going forward here as well. But we're going to be going into a map number 5 in Door. I mean, we're going back to control. This is where Wisp got the tone set very early on. We saw them get a lead going for themselves. It felt like this was going to be Wisp's game to take, but, you know, we had a break about, 40 minutes ago, and it felt like we were about to see Saints down to the lower bracket, and all of a sudden, here we are going into our next one, and it feels like Saints are the team to beat.
Everything's riding on one more map, Hurix. The lower bracket is not a place either of these teams want to be, so we'll give them a little bit, figure out what they want to do for map number 5. When we come back, the series is decided.
You like solving problems. Problems like how to stop that tracer from deleting your backline. I know just what you're thinking. Go bring a turret. But y'all can't solve all your problems by simply bringing an extra friend to the battlefield. For that, you need the Contenders Torbjorn skin. Solve your problems by connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. After that, watching Overwatch Contenders Summer Series will contribute to your drops progress, letting you claim your Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin. Even your turret gets an upgrade. Warning, the Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin does not come with extra or upgraded turrets. Build instructions will not be provided. By picking Torbjorn, you waive a claim towards any destroyed turrets. No refunds, no exchanges, and no take-backsies.
It's all come down to this, Hurix. We were talking about it yesterday. I've been saying it since we got here. This bracket was going to be ugly for somebody at some point, and someone has to walk away a loser today. Neither of these two teams are used to being losers pretty much ever with the performances we've seen them put on. But with one map to go, how are we feeling about these two? Saints are in charge, but Control went to WISP last time around.
Yeah, I mean, crazy to see how highly contested all of these matches have been. You know, yesterday, now today as well. Quick mention before we even go any further, because obviously we have a lot left to be decided in this matchup, but 2-2 right now towards the end of the series. I think they're at the end of map 5, O3 Splash and Amplify right now. But yeah, focusing again on our match because we've got a heater of our own to get through before we're even starting map number 5. Yeah, it's crazy to see the position that these teams get into. And now again, we're looking down the barrel of yet another, what is this now, the 4th, maybe 5th possible reverse sweep in 2 days? It's insane.
I said at the beginning of the game, we were on Lijong Tower, and I was like, if this is any less than 5 maps, we're not getting our money's worth from this one. And I wasn't lying. I am a happy customer. Heads up, though, because we're going to Antarctic Peninsula for that map number 5. Things are going to get very, very claustrophobic very soon.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious to see which submaps we're going to be pulling early, because I would say 2 of the 3 maps here make a ton of sense for WISP, given what we saw in that first map. If we want to relive that era of just, again, that shooters comp, just playing Orisa, playing into that 4 hit scan, I think WISP played that pretty well. They did have to battle through Saints, so I don't think it's a gimme at all. But given what we could see in terms of the different maps, sub maps in play, Antarctic Peninsula, just, I mean, obviously it makes sense. We were talking a little bit before the break, and I was like, I don't know exactly where they want to go, because Lijong feels like the best pick, and everything else is like, It's not going to be Ilios, but outside of that, I had no idea. Either way, though, WISP, You can see there lined up Chopper and Rocket back in the mix. Sunjun over deflect. I mean, we're going exactly right back to where we were when we started. A little bit of a way to tie the knot on what was begun in map number 1.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, a lot of the changes there, but the one thing we look at almost more than anything else is who's in that secondary flex support slot. Sonjun here for WISP. Although there's not a sub on the other side, Tree is still playing in that position, so no sub means no fancy graphic, but it is a very critical thing to look at because these teams have... I mean, it feels like I'm looking at like the Ultimate Transformer that has like 20 different modes it can enter, because like it might be the same roster, but it's definitely like not the same team, not the same game plan going in every time.
Yeah, Sunjun might have played every map, but he didn't play the every map the same.
He was playing a different game every map.
Yeah, he played, I think, like 3 different roles. We've seen him flex DPS, we've seen him hit scan DPS, we've seen flex support. I mean, at this point...
Sunjun's locking in the Arista for map 5.
Yeah, I was about to say that, like, at this point I was expecting to see Ices come out, and I was like, where's Riker? Sunjun comes in and is just playing Arisa for no reason, but... that is obviously not the case here. We're going back to where we started. I would say the other interesting thing here, of course, the fact that we do see Vega still in the mix for Saints. So as we talked about starting things off on the opening map, you know, I think that obviously Vega probably going to be going the route... Well, now I'm actually curious because we see Tree actually on the BAP at the moment, which means this isn't actually just a speed out. This is going to be Vega probably actually staying on the Lucio, and they're going to stick with this, and they're going to go with that tempo version that I was talking about back on New Queen Street. WISP obviously going with the same composition that they started, but Saints, I love this from them here on Antarctic Peninsula.
Again, we have to give a shout out to Afterlife, who was playing this yesterday and showed us just how effective it can be on control maps, being able to out-rotate your opponent. So far working quite well. Squid is caught out by the sheer pace that Saints are bringing to the table.
Yeah, I love this composition so much. As long as they can sustain, there's obviously a ton of pressure that WISP can throw out. So if Saints don't win the fight fast and get locked into a position where they're forced to stay in the fight, eventually WISP can actually turn the fight around, even if they lose one player early. So Saints do have to be careful. We do have a pause right now, so this is going to slow down the pace of the game just a tad, which is, I would say, it's exactly what WISP want, but just maybe not so much inside of a pause, more so inside of the game is what they're looking for. Either way, though, Saints win the neutral fight. That is good news for them because holding as this composition that we see from WISP is a lot easier. Pushing into a team that is going to be able to speed into you, not so much.
So what do we think the adaptation is here for WISP to try and get in on this? Do we stay back? Are we still just trying to play for picks and make sure we stay out of range of that Lucio speed? And is that too patient? Because the composition that Saints are playing and just the kind of nature of this map is that there is quite a bit of cover, so finding those picks becomes a taller task.
Yeah, I think if you're WISP, again, you need to slow the game down. You need to find every single avenue at which you can slow the game down possible. That means obviously making sure you have clean disengages, that you have the capacity to make disengages, but also that you have defensive abilities ready to stave off pushes that the Saints are going to make and then keep your distance where possible. That's what WISP needs to do here. When you can actually feign pushes and force Saints to go in for their aggressive takes, that can actually give you advantages early in fights as well. If you want to decide when the fights happen, that's the only way forward. Otherwise, you're playing the patient game, hoping to out-pressure your opponent.
That's still not a guarantee. Saints are still throwing quite a bit of damage towards WISP. Icy eating the brunt of it. The Arisa's health bar nigh on 0. Instead, it's Rockets, though. They changed that aggression over to the Torbjorn. Take it right on down. You don't even need the speed to get that job done. They will take the speed to run down Chopper, though.
I think WISP just need to make sure that they can kind of get a concerted effort going. They need to stay together. They can't split off as much until we see that one of those cooldowns open up, or they go for a very big flank setup early on. You can see now the 3-2 split is happening. If you can set this up, this could be good, but you have to sustain in that 3-man. You have to live here.
You live initially, but again, I think the difficulty is just that WISP can't force this issue. And yeah, they want to slow the game down, but slowing the game down means percentage off the board. We're at 70%. Pulse finally goes down. Chopper with a nice headshot and some Helix rockets does the brunt of the damage to the Orisa. Gets traded out, though. Saints still looking for a couple picks to end this fight off.
And they do still have to clean this one up a little bit. They want to make sure that they don't die in the process. There they go. They do manage to get those kills, so that is good news for them. But again, Wisp have to make sure that they can, if they go for these splits, they don't lose their core, but they are maintaining that flank, and it's difficult to do that against a team that can just speed into anyone. If we see that flank a little bit too close to Saints' core, Saints can easily speed into that flank. So again, positioning is going to be key here, and they do not want to get caught out. If anybody from Wisp gets caught out, fight's over. It's going back over to Saints.
And take a look at how much further back Icy is set up than False was in that previous engagement. They set up for the combo though, and down they go! The Captive Sun with the Terror Surge! Get used to it, everybody. This is what we expect to see more of with this comp.
Yeah, that combo is here to stay.
Oh, give me a
nice
replay.
Setup.
Oh, yeah.
I love this. Perfect placement as well from Sunjun as well. I mean, perfect placement. Catches everybody they need to. Wisp don't give up any economy in the process. Unfortunately for them, Saints don't really need the economy. They have basically everything ready to go. Now Wisp have to be so careful about the way that they play this. You like the way that they're separated here positionally, but it's going to take more than that.
Aggressive surge by False, and Icy's basically just a spectator to this fight after having been forced away by the amplification matrix. It's on its head now by Saints. Last fight territory for either side, though.
I love the patience, though, especially from Vega on Saints. I mean, holding on to that sound barrier, and now they have the option to be able to counteract Chopper's visor coming into this next fight. That's really the best case scenario that Wisp have in being able to win this fight, pushing in through Saints. Remember, Saints have the ability to speed boost. Now they have the sound barrier as well. They can basically just run at anyone on Wisp. So a lot of pressure here onto Squid and Icy to hold down the fort.
Chopper looks for a visor, backs away after having been forced off.
They pulled it.
Rotating around. Saints, the sound barrier is gone. The critical tool is missing. Wisp have all the space as well. This flank is giving them so much. Chopper just needs to stay alive and is dodging bullets, bobbing and weaving like you've never seen before. Runs it around, gets the better of Sam on the way out, and Wisp have got to cap on this point unless Vega just does something obscene here, but that's put to a stop. 75% last chance for Saints.
One fight in, and Rocket has Pulse Bomb available as well. That actually could signify the end there. If he can catch anyone, that would be a fight win more than likely.
I mean, Icy's nearly there. They've got a combo if they can build it up, but again, Rocket's somebody who's dangerous with the Pulse, regardless of the combo. One of the most prolific tracers in North America is never gonna miss that. Does throw it out, though. It doesn't land. Immortality field gone. Rocket's down. 4v5, it's not over for Wisp. This comp can produce a lot of picks. Icy's a lot higher HP. False has to force their way into the back line, and they've done so quite well. Chopper's now gone. No DPS left for Wisp, and they're going to fall one by one. Saints have fought this one back to take away the first point. Now within spitting distance of the reverse sweep. And for Wisp, I mean, this is dire straits. You start to feel it. After you give up that second map, the nerves start to get to you. Start to feel, are we really letting go of this game? Now it becomes all the more real, Hurix.
Yeah, especially for Rocket, who, I mean,
how often do you ever
times
see
out of 1,000.
Rocket? Yeah, exactly. Any other day. Any other minute. Any other second.
But not only that, I mean, missing that Pulse Bomb, and then, I mean, they pull the Immortality Field, which at the end of the day, that's about as good as you're going to get more often than not anyways, but then dying immediately after, forcing your team into a 4v5, losing out that pressure differential that you've been relying on all game. And you remember back to the predictions at the beginning of the game, 52% for Saints, 48% for Wisp. I mean, obviously this makes a ton of sense because of how close this is, but man, Saints, they are eking out that extra 2%. They are making sure that they have earned that. They are ahead, one sub map. Now, looking to control this high ground here as well. You love the splits here for Saints. Just having that Illari next to Sam there, Tree and Sam against their mirror on the other side. But, I mean, Wisp have the high ground, so they are able to contest this a little bit better.
This feels like a better position for Wisp, to be completely honest. Sam's low, fighting through this door is very, very difficult. The high ground set up to the Torbjorn. This is a really juicy position for Wisp. It's not a guarantee by any means. Like we said, at any point, you can get taken down. There's shooters everywhere. 10 of them across the map in this one. Tree, Vega, Sam look to fight out from this corner, give them an opportunity, but again, they're fighting into that high ground, and it is so difficult. They are eating the brunt of the damage. There's not really much being thrown back the way of Wisp. They're kind of just shrugging this one off, taking all this pressure with ease, though now ultimates have been built up. Vega pops an Ant Matrix, turns things around. Wisp on the back foot now, but they've got one to fight back. Should they get it off? And with King down, they might not even have to.
Wisp actually going to go ahead and use it. Squid almost immediately finds Tree, and just like that, Saints are going to crumble under that pressure. Yeah, they did get 7%. That forces the flip, so they aren't going to be as much behind. And that could matter in the long run. Either way, though, Saints and Wisp both use one ultimate, and that's all that we see from that first fight. And now it's all going to come down to this advantage that Wisp has with positioning, setting up on those flanks yet again here. They can play forward. I think the main point of contention here is going to be where Icy wants to play from, because Icy needs to be able to be forward enough to be able to make a play off of False, and False is going to go first.
False onto Terror Surge. This actually buys the high ground for Sam to visor from. Oh, it's a lot easier said than done. He's sat in the lava for quite a bit of time. Rocket's taking down Vega in the meantime. The Torb that lurks beneath the bridge, which they stand on, is proven more than deadly. Chopper follows up with a beautiful visor as well. Great disengage initially by Wisp, only to fire back with everything.
Yeah, that's crazy by Wisp. They're allowing Saints to be the aggressor. They're allowing Saints to kind of
That's totally the opposite of how this started out, too.
Exactly. That's the craziest part about it, is that Wisp was always the one to set the tone early on. You saw Icy setting up for those big picks back on Lijong Tower. Now we get further into the series, it is completely flipped on its head. Wisp is now the one making those mid-fight pivots, and they're doing so very successfully here. Remember, down a round, but very much in control of this one.
Reset on Circuit Royale for Saints. Job's not finished for Wisp. They got to get through one more fight to take this thing away. There's a lot of ultimates up for Wisp to try and finish it out. Notably, the combo that people have been talking about these days. The new hotness. Icy storms forward. Terror Surge in hand. Out goes the Captive Sun. And it is a huge whiff. Fortunately, they're able to trade out at least one here. Taking down the turret and the healing pylon off the back of an Amplification Matrix. Maintains the pressure that they initially bought with that combo. But they need more than this to finish out the fight. They need picks. And Trees gifted it to him. What on earth was he doing there?
Oh, I can't believe it. Helix, perfect timing. Chopper, a second one to follow up with. Both of those Helixes getting so much value, and now it's just a matter of time. False is hanging on for dear life, but it really won't last too much longer.
I mean, False can live quite a long time. The Terror Surge gives him effectively a second fortify, but that's it. Ladies, gentlemen, everything in between. We're going to map 5, round 3.
I just can't believe it. This is the second time that we've had this. Out of, what, 3 matches in total that we've casted so far since, since coming back into the knockouts. I mean,
this is very lucky. I'll tell you what.
But it's not just us, too. That's
Every game has been incredible.
It's all across the board. We've been seeing these potential reverse sweeps. We've seen map 5s. We've been seeing round 3 map 5s. Incredible just how good these games have been. Obviously, a lot of that can be because of the fact that, you know, teams are still trying to figure so much out, but it was even happening before, you know, back in the group stage as well, where we're seeing how close these teams are. Now it just feels like they're even closer, despite a lot of these teams really feeling like we've been, you know, obviously kind of locked in. They do have their identities already. In fact, I'm hearing from our producer right now, we've had more map 5s than not map 5s. That's crazy.
This one can't go any further, though, Hirx. The line is drawn here. The buck stops in the labs. Initial approach is cautious from either side. Wisp taking a very wide angle on a part of the map that we have maybe hardly ever seen actually utilized by any team. But Wisp take a very creative approach to this point. The 3-2 split setting off a very wide flank from Chopper and Sonjun, but this leaves Icy so vulnerable, and Saints recognize that opportunity instantly.
Yeah, Saints obviously identifying the fact that they can actually just overload one side instead of just taking pressure from both. This is kind of what you like to see in certain situations where you have things like the Lucio, but guess what? We don't have the Lucio here. They are opting for that. I don't want to say double flex, but you of course see Vega on the bat tree going over to the Zenyatta. which is obviously they're matched by WISP. This is the composition you want to play on this map, which again does bode well for Saints. This is a much better style that they can play into as opposed to what we saw on the last round, which was so dominant for WISP. Now it's going to be all about high ground control. WISP has to be so careful about these approaches because look, King is off on that left side, and it's so hard to take him out of there.
I mean, King's low, and King is out of it. This is very good for Wisp so far.
Immortality.
Immortality's gone. Wisp is, I mean, Pulse rather
Wisp
is
also gone. Or rather, Saints is gone. Saints is out of there.
But that means low ground for them, and pretty uncomfy position. A lot of the pressure now goes towards False, though with the Zenyatta and the Baptiste, it's not nearly as much healing as that Alari would offer up from the long range with the healing pylon, with the burst healing. False assassinated by Rocket following that 56%. Nothing to scoff at for Saints, but Whisper in control now.
Yeah, not at all. Saints are so happy with the way that started because now you go in for a recontest, and if you can make this happen quickly, you can actually catch Wisp out without Transcendence, which means you might be able to hold yours, and that would be incredible for Saints in terms of pacing in these fights. If I'm Saints, I'm trying to go as early as possible, knowing full well that Sunjun is still 20% off.
There's still a lot of ultimates, though, to disengage. Terror Surge can buy space. Molten Core can buy space. Tell you what's not. Amplification Matrix. Chopper, though, still firing in as much as he reasonably can behind, but already spent the Biotic Field. Rocket's getting it done on the other end, though. Oh, my God. It's always Torbjorn's here. Why is it always Torbjorn's?
Coming in the clutch. I mean, Chopper was the MVP of that fight, somehow sneaking out a kill and making it so now they can equalize. The Transcendence equalize, that was so important for Saints to get. They're going to get it. Unfortunately for them, they're not in control anymore, so this doesn't work as well for them. Yes, they still have a ton of weapons, but if I'm Wisp here, I'm just trying to make sure I can deal with these flanks, because you know Sam is working it.
Sam on the flank already spent the Biotic Field as well. Chopper could realistically run this down. Truth is not to. Molten Core's out either way. That is a very hot floor. False doesn't care. Amidst all the lava, pops Terror Surge to buy the space. With Rocket down, Wisp give it up. They'll back away to high ground. There's a full wrap on point that you have to be careful of, though. And with both the Transcendences, it's effectively a game of chicken between the Zenyatas. Who fires off first? Watch the check marks at the top of the screen. Sonjun. Tree, who goes for it? Sam pops a visor from the side lane. That is not the penultimate point of this fight. There's a lot more sustained to go. Sonjun and Vega. Oh my God, stalwart as ever. I could not have the cojones to hold an ultimate this long, but they both throw it in. Tree's up first. Sonjun gets the better ult. Wisp on the front foot. Terror Surge pulls False back in. This is the opportunity that Wisp has been looking for. They can end it all right here, and they have. Sonjun gets the better trans off, and it's checkmate for Wisp.
And denied Saints as well. Wisp, they got 2 maps early. They just couldn't put it together for the next ones. Finally, at the very end, down 0-1 in sub maps, they're able to turn it all the way back around again. What a roller coaster ride. But I want to say hats off to Squid because somehow they were able to live through Sam's visor without pulling their Transcendence early. And that's what made the difference. Them getting that Transcendence late, setting up for Icy's Terra Surge, they were able to time it perfectly and win the fight off of the back of that, and enough can't be said about the sustain from that backline to be able to live through Sam's pressure from the visor. But what a ride this round has been.
God, you know the rush that comes, because again, I mean, these players know what we know, right? If not, like, infinitely more. They know the trances are both up. They know what it's likely going to come down to. In the second Sonjun sees the trees pop this trans, everyone on Wisp, I guarantee you, is just everyone's screaming in comms to just run it down. You know you've got it after that. And boy, did they. I mean, like you said, Terror Surge to finish it off is nice, but boy, what incredible team play by Wisp. And you can't take anything away from Saints. I hate to be the Friday Night Lights guy or whatever, but they left it all out on the field. There's nothing left to give.
If this was next Sunday, it might have gone the other direction. I mean, if we're honest with ourselves, this could very well be a grand final matchup down the line. We could easily see these two teams here. Now, because it's NA, we could also easily see anyone else in this situation. So I'm looking forward to whoever we've got, but if a grand final in our future looks anything like the games that we've had so far, not even just this one, but all of the games that have just been so close, then, oh man, this could very easily be one of the best tournaments of all time. And I've seen a fair few of Contenders tournaments myself. You know that.
I mean, because we talked about last season, right? Last season was the most contentious we've seen, the closest group of every single team combined, right? You couldn't really count anybody out. This season was kind of the same, but the bracket has been just so close. And I mean, last season we had a decently close bracket, but it was not what this one has been. Like you said, more map 5s than any other number of maps, those being 3 and 4 combined. Oh, dude, the guts, the blood pressure you must be hitting playing on some of these matches has got to be insane. Not to mention doing it over and over and over again. I hope they ate their Cheerios this morning.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, though. We still have yet another match to get to, Dor, so we're going to keep this thing moving along. We got an interview coming up after just a real short break. We're going to be talking to Rocket. Stay tuned for that.
There are days I will always remember when the sun and the world were bright. Solar energy filled all our needs, but only a few could bring the sun's power into themselves. These were the Inti warriors, but we call them the children of the sun. They aided our people in so many ways, as providers, healers, and in times of danger, our protectors. I was always told I would become a warrior, a big responsibility, but I had a gift that could help my people. So, I trained. At last came the day they said I was ready to join their ranks and embrace the sun. There are days I will always remember. Was it my fault that no one knew the true extent of my power? To this day, I still don't understand what I did wrong. But it doesn't matter anymore. I will make up for what I've done. Because I am Iliari, and I am the last child of the sun.
Hey, welcome back, y'all. We promised you an interview, and of course we get one. We've got Rocket. And Rocket, first of all, I mean, congratulations. That is almost inarguably the biggest win that we've seen in bracket in terms of what it means for you guys. What does it mean for you, though, to come away with it, especially after 5 maps like that?
Oh, dude, this is like one of the best wins I've had, even though it's like middle of the tournament and I'm sure we'll play them again soon. This is like a crazy win, especially for me and Chopper, who for the past almost a year at this point have been in like a super big slump. We haven't placed above 5th through 6th in like over a year at this point, which is like difficult because of how on top we used to be like in 2021, early 2022. So yeah, we've just been trying to, you know, anything above 5th through 6th is our thing. So to secure top 3, I mean, I'm happy. I'll take that, man.
I mean,
It's so hype.
But I want to know exactly what the final moments of getting it were like. Because for Hurix and I were watching this, and we see both teams have that transcendence, right? And it's effectively just a game of chicken. You see Tree pop is first. You know Sonjun's got the better trance. In that moment, what's it like just hard engaging on them, knowing that you've got the trump card, that you've pretty much got it on lock?
I mean, it feels good. I'm just focused, like, in that moment, I'm just so dialed in. I think everyone's dialed in. At that point, like, our comms are just so fluid and perfect. That whole map, fluid and perfect. Just, like, not a single miscommunication. Everything is just fluid. Everyone wants to win. And I think we really showed it, man. That's, like, the first time I think WISP has ever beat Saints, like, even in, like, a small tournament. So we'll take that win for sure. And, you know, it feels good to go the distance, too, for everyone, you know.
I mean, it's got to feel better as well, the way that it happened, too, because you guys set the tone early. I mean, I can recall back, I mean, at this point, it was like 2 hours ago, but when you first started the series, I saw Icy just tossing people off the side of the map with the javelins. It happened twice. You literally see that happen 0 times a map, but somehow Icy managed to get it twice. I'm sure you guys were feeling good after map 1. You get into map 2, you lock that one up as well. I mean, what was the emotion like coming out of map 2? What was your expectation, and how did it kind of shift going map 3, map 4, then map 5?
Well, for me personally, obviously I set out maps 3 and 4. I was just like,
it's rocket dip. That's why they lost, right?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see when we play them again. I'm like, okay, Chopper, Sanjin, you guys do your thing. I'm giving it their hands, and you know, we literally did not sleep last night. We went over every map, every like option, every opportunity to, you know, play this team, because that's kind of what you have to do to, like, you know, hold up to Saints. Is we prep for every scenario, every call, every map. That's why, you know, I think those first 2 maps were so dominant. But once we got into their map picks and stuff, you can only prep for so much, and so Circuit and NQS and their Zen comp on NQS wasn't something that we necessarily were like super prepared for compared to everything else we played. But you know,
what were you anticipating there? Because you guys brought out the JQ comp, something that
we were not expecting the Joker Queen.
I mean, we expected a Lucio because we saw Mayball come in. Then we were like, oh, we're gonna play the like Lucio variant of the Orisa comp, and then it was like full JQ. And I think the composition, like realistically, I hear and I were talking about it during the break, very well could have worked, but certainly a lot of miscommunication in that particular round. What was the choice like there?
Well, I think we generally always just play that Queen Lucio comp, like really fast tempo into anything really. I think Saints is the first team we've played against that played the Zen comp as well. They were playing really far back and made it really difficult for our Genji to get like a lot of value up front. You know, I think if we made a little bit less mistakes, we actually could have for sure won that map.
Yeah, I agree.
But I mean, it's just like that comp versus that Zen Orisa bunker on NQS, you have to literally play perfect to, you know, take maps like that. Just the nature of that matchup and NQS as a map in general. So,
and obviously you're watching. I mean, WISP, despite losing the maps that you were out on, it felt like they were still both winnable. I mean, obviously we just, you know, kind of talked through NQS, but on the screen right now we're still working our way through Circuit, and even Circuit was one of those ones where it just felt like, oh, this is WISP game to win. They're going to take this one, and all of a sudden Saints start getting control of those flanks. They start owning the side lanes, and it immediately shifts. I mean, the emotion, the momentum immediately shifts. Did you guys kind of feel the same way in that moment as we did, kind of watching that in the moment?
Yeah, I mean, personally for me, like every time we'd get a pick, I'd like freak out and jump out my chair, and then every time they got a pick, I'm just like, oh no, man. But, I mean, I think Vision and False played really good that map, so shout out to them. But in general, yeah, I mean, I think next time we should be good. It's, you know, I think we're the type of team where it's like we'll lose fights and we'll lose maps, and we'll kind of keep our heads up the entire time. Especially me and Chopper, you know, we're so used to losing that it's like, okay, we're not really like gonna sit here and be like, oh no, we're gonna lose. We have no expectations, right? At least the current WISP. Oh yeah, trust me, we've been there for a long time. So, you know, we keep that composure and zero nervousness throughout the whole entire set. And I think that's what kind of made the difference, especially on that last map.
I mean, now it seems like that means you just have nothing to lose. You got Pip up next. What's the game plan for tonight? Is it review as hard, or are we finally getting some rest?
Well, I think we gotta watch this dogfight match coming up. The same after like this. I actually cannot wait. I gotta stand up for this. But yeah, we'll prep just as hard as we did for Saints versus every other team, and you know, this is looking like a really good run for WISP finally, after, you know, so long of being like middling, having good performances, and then being middling. I think this is finally the season to look out for. So, but yeah, I appreciate it.
I mean, is this going to be, before you head out, I mean, is this going to be likely a WISP Saints grand final? What do we think? And you think there's anybody that can test either of you?
Well, I think Every team has a chance of showing up, right? But I think Saints just has that, like, they got that taste of blood in the water, right? They want, they're gonna show up.
The L now.
Yeah, they're gonna go serious mode, probably revamp a few of their compositions and stuff, and I guarantee we'll see them in grand finals. I feel like we have to at this point. You know, the Wisp Saints rivalry
rematch
has
of that
been
is
on
only
for so
fair.
long. Yeah, I mean, it's been going on since A-Sides.
Knowing you guys,
Wisp and
like, look,
Odyssey.
yeah, you let him have 2 because you're just true entertainers like that. You'll give us the rematch because, again, the stream comes first.
Of course. Yeah,
we'll
of course
send it to 5 there. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Appreciate your time, though, Rocket. Pop in, please. If you take away another match, we'd love to have you back.
Of course.
Get your rest. Enjoy the next match.
Guys.
And we'll take you later.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a good one, y'all.
Bye. All right, Eric. That leaves us with one thing to do, and that is get ready for the next one. Because like Rocket's a Rocket. I mean, it's like advertising the match for us. This next one does promise to be good. Saints look pissed, and I don't think Afterlife are planning on going out easy.
Yeah, not at all. Obviously, Afterlife have been watching through that series, and we've seen plenty of Afterlife. We know what to expect there, and I'm curious to see how that's going to fare against Saints. I mean, obviously, again, a Saints team that has smelled blood in the water, and they know exactly what they need to do, and quickly, or they find themselves out of the tournament, this is going to be a brawl between these two squads.
And, if you want to be like, oh, but Saints are so much higher seeded, this, that, and the other, take a look what happened between O3 Splash and Amplify. Look at how close that was. You don't take anything for granted in this bracket. It is late here in North America, and it could be an even later night for Saints and Afterlife. But you know what? We're letting you guys know in a little bit how long that one's going to go. Maybe, just maybe, escape, but we'll see after the break.
Oh, hello!